I was impressed with that move you pulled. Bang.
Ladies and boys and girls, children of all ages, it's me, it's G, it's Double MD, the undefeated, undisputed YouTube champion. That's right, it's the Maverick, Mark Daniels, here with yet another tier list here on the road to WrestleMania. WrestleMania Day 1 should be today by the time you see this, so hopefully it was a good show. Hopefully it is a good show. As I mentioned yesterday when we did the US Champions tier list, I'm doing these because, A, it's the road to WrestleMania, so I'm trying to spice things up a little bit to celebrate WrestleMania. And usually I do like a ranked list. I just didn't have time to really put one together because it takes a lot of work to actually make the tier list and then also kind of write out what order my ranked would be, like, and then look, okay, I want to put down my favorite match of theirs, and it just takes too long, right? So I'm using other people's tier lists here. This is with Intercontinental Champions. It is missing a few. We'll get to that. We'll start off with those once we actually start the tier list process. We'll talk about the ones that it's missing. Missing like 4, I think, which isn't a big deal. Basically, this list goes to like 2020, and then we're missing like champions from 2020 to 2022, which is 2 years. Well, I guess a year and a half because we're not quite a full year into 2022, and that sounds like a lot. And there were a lot of title reigns. However, most of them are already on this list already previously, so that helps out. So there's only 4 of them out of that like year and a half period that have held the Intercontinental Championship for the first time in that time period. So they're not going to be on this list, but we'll talk about them. So first things first, let's talk about our different tiers here. So, of course, we have God tier. That's, of course, the best of the best, cream of the crop. The best wrestlers on this list, the best title reigns. We're going to put them up here. There's like 80, I want to say 80, I counted as like 83 wrestlers here. I'm going to try to keep it about 10 or less here in the God tier. And of course, this isn't like reflective of the wrestlers themselves in their entire career, although I'll probably talk about their career while talking about these wrestlers. This is more or less how I see them as Intercontinental Champions. And there's a lot of things that play in here, obviously, like quality of title reign, how long the title reign was, how many they've had. Those are all things that can affect like how synonymous they are with this championship. And another bonus is, did they go on to win the World Championship after this? Was this like a stepping stone? Because for me, these mid-card title belts, that's what they should be used for, is like a stepping stone. These are the guys that we're working on to become the main events of, the next couple years, and these are the guys that we're going to be pushing on the top of the card at some point. Now, I know originally this was like, I don't know if originally, but at one point, like the Intercontinental title was known like the workhorse title. This is like the best quality matches, that's what you're going to see on the WrestleMania, because I'm thinking of like Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat, right? That's kind of what the IC title was known for at certain points. But for me, I like to see the mid-card title as like a stepping stone to the next level. So that plays a factor. Also, when they win the title, where they won the title, where they lost the title could also maybe play a factor. There's a lot of different factors. We'll talk about them as we go through. And nothing's set in concrete. We'll move things around as we go as well. So anyways, let's get started, guys. So, actually, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but this does include the Intercontinental Champions that had the title when WWF was with the NWA. There's 6 title reigns total, 4 different wrestlers: Pat Patterson, Ken Patera, Don Morocco, and Pedro Morales. They are on this list, and we'll rank them as well. Some of these wrestlers I did not see wrestle ever, like Don Morocco, never seen a match. So I'm going to have to use this Wikipedia here to kind of help guide my perception of them, depending on how many reigns, days, things of that nature. Because I don't want to just put them all in jobber because I've never seen them wrestle. That's not fair. But maybe I shouldn't put them in God tier either because this is my personal tier list. Not necessarily who I think was the greatest of all time, historically, but just who I consider the best Intercontinental Champions, if that makes sense. Because it's all opinionated anyways, right? So there might be an old-time wrestling fan that watches this who's been watching wrestling for 40, 50 years and like, what the hell? Ken Patera should be at top, he should be in God tier. I don't know, right? I didn't see him wrestle. So we'll try to be as fair as we can on that. So let's get started. So we're missing a few. Let me scroll down here that are not on this tier list. The first one is Braun Strowman. And obviously I don't have a picture to put anywhere, so we're just going to have to use our imagination a little bit, right? Just imagine this wrestler is where they should be. Braun Strowman held the title for 37 days. A pretty forgettable title run, to be honest. I remember him winning the title. He won the title. He lost the title in a 3-on-1 handicap match. and that's when Sami Zayn won his first championship, which was pretty surprising because no one thought Sami Zayn was going to be. That was the first time he won a championship, I believe, in WWE. And that was in 2020, and he had been in WWE for quite a long time. And Sami is actually a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion at this point. We'll talk about him right after Braun Strowman. But Braun Strowman, I would probably put his title reign in not so good. Well, when did he win the Universal title? Was that afterwards? Let me quickly check. Because if this was used as a stepping stone, although he could have been world champion pretty quickly, honestly, because he was already kind of a top guy, even though they kept pushing him and stopped pushing him. It was like they did poorly by Braun Strowman, in my opinion. All right, so he won the Universal Championship in 2020, March 25th or 26th, because it's WrestleMania 36. That's what they put on here, on the Wikipedia. So when did he win the Intercontinental title again? He won it in 2020, January 31st. Lost it. Okay, so he literally lost the Intercontinental Championship and then immediately won the Universal Championship. And then shortly after that was gone from the company. He's gone. He's not in WWE anymore. It's very bizarre. So you know what? I'm going to put it in just because he won the Universal title afterwards. I mentioned it's a stepping stone. And when it's used that way, it kind of makes it a little bit better for me. I'm going to put it in good. It'll be at the bottom of good more than likely, but I'll put it in good for that purpose alone. Next, we have Sami Zayn. He has held the title on 3 different occasions, between 2020 and 2022. As I mentioned just a second ago, he won the title originally from Strowman in a handicap match. Not a strong victory for Sami, but it does fit his character at the time. And it was heavily celebrated by me because I was like, oh my god, Sami actually won the title. And that was at Elimination Chamber March 8th. And he held the title for 65 days, so 3 months. Then they ended up vacating the title. He got stripped from the title because he couldn't compete during COVID-19. So that's right, because he had left because of the COVID, and then he came back declaring himself he was still the champion. That's when was that triple threat ladder match? Oh man, that was a really good match too. So after that, AJ won the title. It was vacated. He won a tournament. He defeated Daniel Bryan for the title, and then AJ's not on this list either. Let's talk about AJ here in a minute as well. And then AJ lost the title to Jeff Hardy. And then we have that triple threat ladder match at Mania, or not at Mania, at Clash of Champions, where Sami Zayn won the title, and that was a really good match. And Sami using his brains to really win that match as well, if I remember correctly. He held that title for 86 days, that reign, in the second reign. Lost to Big E, who then had a 110-day reign, followed by Apollo Crews. We'll have to talk about Apollo as well here in a second, because he's also not on this list. Ended up winning the title from Nakamura, ending Nakamura's 182 reign, which was really good. Then he lost the title against Ricochet recently, with the help, if I'm not mistaken, with the help from Johnny Knoxville from Jackass, and I'm not even kidding about that. Sami Zayn's wrestling Johnny Knoxville, for those who don't watch wrestling. Sami Zayn's wrestling Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. That is actually a match that's happening. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it, just to see what they do. Surely there's going to be some Jackass shenanigans involved. Anyways, that last title reign wasn't very strong, only 21 days. Pretty disappointing, all things considered, as well. So, that all being said, 3 title reigns, 2 fairly strong title reigns, and a kind of a weaker one. I like Sami a lot, and I want to see him have something more. And him wrestling Knoxville is kind of a big deal because it's given him some notoriety. You know, he's kind of in the eyes of more casuals. Maybe people don't watch wrestling, see Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville do all this stuff on Twitter, where Johnny Knoxville gave out Sami Zayn's cell phone number, and everyone's calling him and texting him, and Sami Zayn's going crazy because of it. I thought that stuff was awesome, and even though the title reign wasn't great, Johnny Knoxville was a part of that, obviously. I would put him in great. I'd put Sami in great, maybe near the mid, but I'd put him in great because I think he's a step above some of the people will put in good. So next we have AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. He won the title from Daniel Bryan in the tournament that we mentioned after Sami Zayn had vacated the title. Now this was like a step backwards for AJ, similar with the U.S. title situation. He had already been WWE champion. Now he's starting to kind of wind down in his career a little bit. He's getting a little bit older, not moving as well as he used to. I mean, that happens with age, unfortunately, to all of us. He's still a great talent, though. He had some great matches with the Intercontinental Championship. Obviously, lost it against Jeff Hardy, which was an interesting decision because they weren't, if I remember right, really doing much with Jeff Hardy at the time. who Jeff Hardy's not even with the company anymore, but we'll talk about him later on in this video. But AJ, I would say, had a solid title reign. I'd put him in good. Next, we have Apollo Crews, who won the title from Big E, who won the title from Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn's second title run. Big E won the title in a lumberjack match, and that was on a SmackDown. He then lost the title against Apollo Crews, and I'm not kidding when I say this, it was a Nigerian drum fight, and there wasn't really any drums involved at all. It was very disappointing. I was hoping they'd have a bunch of people out on the side of the ring just banging drums the entire time. Would have been really sick. Anyways, Big E losing against Apollo Crews. Apollo had a decent reign, 124 days. Lost against Nakamura. The Nakamura went on to have an 182 day reign, although he never defended the title. In fact, we'll talk about this when we get to Nakamura because he is on this list. So, Apollo's reign specifically, I like Apollo. I think he's a great talent. We talked about this with the U.S. title yesterday. I want to see more from Apollo, and I'd like to see him actually wrestle more. You know, that'd be nice. But I would have to put his title reign ultimately in just good, near the bottom. I mean, he did have a long title reign. And, I mean, how many people can say they won their title in a Nigerian drum fight? Not many. So, I think we could put it in good for that alone. And then last but not least, and then we can actually get to the actual tier list thing here, where we're going to move these pictures around, is Ricochet, the current Intercontinental Champion. It's hard to judge current champions, though, as I mentioned yesterday, he lost against Austin Theory after just winning the Intercontinental title on Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania, when he's not on the card as the Intercontinental Champion, in like 5 minutes. Clean as a whistle. Austin Theory is a heel. He's a bad guy. And he beats Ricochet clean. The Intercontinental Champion. Doesn't sit right with me. Unfortunately for Ricochet, who I'm a huge fan of, I think he's a fantastic talent, I'd have to put his rating not so good. So far. Now, could end up doing some big stuff. He's wrestling tonight as I'm recording this, but yesterday for you guys. He's defending his title on Friday Night SmackDown. It's kind of almost like a WrestleMania. I think calling it WrestleMania SmackDown. Almost like a WrestleMania pre-show. I believe they're doing the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal tonight. And then Ricochet is defending his Intercontinental title triple threat match against Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, who are tag team partners. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Coming out of that, will Ricochet get a title match? Will it be a fuck finish? Will then he go on to say, I beat these guys, but I should be on WrestleMania. Razor Ramon just passed away. Let's do a match honoring him. Let's do a ladder match because, Razor Ramon was part of that ladder match with Shawn Michaels. Let's go ahead and do a ladder match. Give me, give me somebody or give me 5 guys that, are top of the heap. Let's have a big ass Intercontinental title match. That would be awesome. Would love that. We'll see if anything like that happens. I have high doubts about it. But for now, Ricochet is not so good as Intercontinental Champion. Alright, so let's get to the list here. So first things first is we have Ahmed Johnson. And admittedly, he's a little before my time, is Ahmed Johnson. 1996, and literally just a little, because I started watching wrestling about 98. He had won the Intercontinental title at King of the Ring, had a 50-day reign, and then he had to vacate the championship. He forfeited the championship after being attacked by a debuting Farouk after winning an 11-man battle royale. And strangely enough, Farouk didn't win the title after taking out Ahmed Johnson. You'd think that'd be the case, naturally. But Farouk did make it to the finals of the tournament, though, against Mark Mero. Anyways, Ahmed Johnson, I'm not a huge fan of his in-ring work. I'm sure most people aren't. He definitely had a great physique. Wrestling-wise, wasn't that smooth, wasn't very good. Promo-wise, he wasn't the greatest. So I have to put his title reign, I would say, especially since he had to vacate it, I want to put it in not so good. Not so good for Ahmed Johnson. Next is A-Train, Albert. Which one was he known as when he won the title? Was it Albert? Alright, so he won the title from Kane. That's actually a pretty big win for somebody. Now, there was a lot of hot potato into this title, especially during the Attitude Era. 2001, he won the title on SmackDown in New York. It was a no disqualification match. Held the title for about 25 or 27 days, depending on when you declare when the title reign actually started, because it was a taped match. Only 27 days. Was that his only title reign as Intercontinental Champion? Yeah, it was. I have to put it not so good as well. Not a good start for Intercontinental Champions. I'll put Ahmed ahead of Albert just because he had a longer reign. Next we have Dean Ambrose, who was possibly, I think he is the longest reigning U.S. champion in WWE history, which is interesting. So he won the title in 2015. He's had a few reigns, by the way, has Dean Ambrose. Won it in 2015. He won it at TLC. Had a 64-day reign. Lost against Kevin Owens. A nice, credible opponent to lose it to. Then on SmackDown, he won the title back from The Miz. And then brought it over to Raw. He held the title there for 152 days. And then on Raw, he had lost the title back to The Miz, who then held the title for 169 days. So pretty solid reign for both there. And then later on, he had won the title from Seth Rollins, after Seth had a pretty good run as the Intercontinental Champion, 119 days. Was put on some great matches, was Seth Rollins. And then Dean Ambrose held the title for 29 days, and then lost it against Bobby Lashley when Bobby won his first Intercontinental Championship, but only held it for 30 days. We'll talk about him in a little bit. This was, I believe, a step backwards for Ambrose, because I believe he won the well, not his earlier reigns, because he won the title when? I want to say like 2017? Let me see here. Let me look up when Ambrose won the WWE title. Let's see. See, WWE Championship. Such a pain in the butt to find the history. There we go. The list of champions sometimes, just from Wikipedia. Alright. Dean Ambrose won the WWE Championship in 2016. So after his first title reign, which was pretty good, 60 days isn't bad, especially, in WWE, because title reigns typically don't last too long. His second title reign, which was after his WWE title reign, was much longer, 152 days. So that first Intercontinental Championship was a bit of a stepping stone to get to that title, and then he went backwards, but was still treated like a credible champion. Holding the title for 152 days is still pretty damn good. And ultimately, I would say that he definitely had a solid title. I'm going to put him in great. I liked Ambrose as champion. Again, that using the first title reign as a stepping stone to become WWE champion, which he wasn't WWE champion for too long. He was 84. Actually, 84 is a pretty good run. 84 days. And of course, now Dean Ambrose not in WWE, off in AEW. Oh my God, AEW. So many W's. AEW as Jon Moxley, but in WWE, he was the leader of the Shield at one point, and then it kind of shifted, and then when Seth Rollins turned on the Shield, Dean was almost kind of like the outcast of the Shield. It was like Roman, of course, was going to be the next big star, as he is today. Everybody knew that. Even when the Shield first started, everybody knew that Roman was going to be the guy. He had the look. He was a big guy, and there was no way he wasn't going to be a big star, right? When he first won the Intercontinental title, the jury was still out. Is he ever going to be a world champion? He should be. He's really good. He's part of the Shield. Seth has already been champion. Roman's been champion. And he ends up winning, I believe, a triple threat match for the world title. Not that affects the Intercontinental title. Against Roman and Seth, which was really cool. Very unexpected as well. Yeah, I put him in great. I think he was a great... I need to speed this up a little bit because there's a shit ton of people here. Next, we have Kurt Angle, who was Intercontinental Champion and European Champion at the same time, the Euro-Continental Champion, as he was once known as. He's only had one Intercontinental title reign, which is pretty insane. And so he only held it for 35 days, which doesn't seem... I thought his title reign was longer. But actually, him being Intercontinental and European Champion led to one of my favorite matches ever. That's definitely my favorite triple threat match. Well, there's been some great triple threat matches, but I think this one's still my favorite triple threat match of all time. And unfortunately, it involves he who cannot be named, Benoit. But it was Kurt Angle versus Jericho versus Benoit, and it was a two matches in one. So the first match was for the European title, and the second was for the Intercontinental title. Jericho won the European, and Benoit won the Intercontinental. It was a very fun match. I enjoyed that match a lot. So for that match alone, I kind of want to put him up a little bit higher. But his title reign only having won for just a month. Not a huge reign. But, I mean, Kurt Angle was great. We're going to put him in good. I think we put him in good. He'll be at the top of good, probably. I don't think, just that one small run warrants him to be in great or even higher than that. But for now, I think good is where he deserves to be. Next is Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I don't know how many title reigns. I know one of them he ended up breaking his neck against Owen Hart and having to do a crappy roll-up. Yeah, here we go. That was his first title reign. Yeah, he won the title from Owen Hart, and that's when he broke his neck. They had to vacate the title after his first run of 36 days, so he held it for a month. Owen Hart won the tournament by beating Farouk for the vacant title, and he held the title for 30 days, and then Stone Cold won it back for 29 days, and then losing it to The Rock, who would go on to have a huge reign. So obviously Steve Austin's one of the greatest of all time. A lot of people consider him the greatest of all time, especially if you're considering, merch sales, tickets, ratings, and all that jazz. Stone Cold is definitely one of my favorites of all time, no doubt about it. Love Stone Cold, great promo, great wrestler. Obviously after his neck broke, he was never quite as good of a technical wrestler as he used to be, but that's neither here nor there. This is before he really broke out and became a massive, massive star. Being the feud with Vince McMahon and everything popping off, but it's around that time that started. He would then, of course, win the WWF title from this. So this was used as a launching pad to get there. 2 reigns is good, both being just about a month long apiece. Obviously, the first one wasn't really anybody's fault because he broke his neck. Obviously, the plan was to have Stone Cold win the title, hold it for 3 months or something, lose it to The Rock, who's gonna have a big title reign, and give The Rock the big rub because The Rock and Austin will have this big rivalry going on in years to come. I'm assuming that was the original plan. They gave it back to Owen since Austin was injured, and then back to Steve Austin, just so they can kind of close that storyline up and then give it to The Rock shortly after that. So I can't put him in great, I don't think, with his title reigns, although they definitely served a purpose. I'm going to put him in good, and I'll probably put him above Angle as well. But, nah, I'll put Angle above just because that Intercontinental title triple threat match was really cool, really good. And obviously that injury kind of tarnishes his title reigns a little bit, and that's not his fault. Not the booking fault, nothing along those lines, but things happen sometimes. Next, we have Curtis Axel. So Curtis Axel held the title once. People may have forgotten this one. He held it for under 55 days, though. Pretty good reign. Won it in a triple threat match against The Miz. Ultimately losing it to Big E. Yeah, he won the triple threat match. It was against Barrett and The Miz. It just says it was involving The Miz. I don't know if he actually pinned The Miz or not. Couldn't tell you. I remember this title reign being a bit underwhelming. I was excited because I liked Curtis Axel. He, obviously he's the son of Mr. Perfect, and he had obviously big shoes to fill, being Mr. Perfect's son. Obviously, Mr. Perfect, who we'll talk about later, kind of synonymous with that IC title belt. He obviously wasn't nearly as good of a promo. Not a bad wrestler though. I thought he was fine in the ring, and his promo wasn't the worst. It just wasn't blowing anybody away, right? And maybe if he would have stayed in the WWE, he's obviously not in WWE anymore, and never really got a chance to really have a big run. I mean, he won the tag titles with Bo Dallas later on as part of the B team. It's kind of a comedy team. But had that Curtis maybe left WWE sooner and went on the indies and kind of wrestled around a bit, maybe could have sharpened his skills a lot more and really became a big star. I don't know. But unfortunately for him, even though he held the title for quite a while, it's a very forgettable title reign, and it didn't really do anything for him at all, or the Intercontinental title for that matter. So unfortunately, I have to put him in not so good. Even though I like Curtis Axel. I think he's great. Next we have Finn Balor, who has held the title a few times here. Well, 2 times. He, maybe I was thinking the U.S. title, maybe? Did he have the U.S. title for a while? He's the U.S. champion now. Anyways, he won the title back in 2019 at Elimination Chamber. It was a 2-on-1 handicap match. Oh, that's right. Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley. Balor beat Rush. This way they can keep Lashley looking strong. Finn only held the title for 22 days. Lost it back to Lashley, who then lost it again to Finn Balor. And he then held the title for 98 days, 3 months. So his first title reign, not great. He won it by beating Bobby Lashley's manager. Even though Lio Rush is a wrestler, at the time he was just a manager. He was kind of a little punk who would just get involved in Lashley's matches, and he would run around, flip all over the place because he's a very flippy guy. And I like Lio Rush a lot. I thought maybe at some point he would break out and maybe win an Intercontinental title or something, but obviously that never happened. He ended up leaving WWE and then going all over the place. He's everywhere now, is Lio Rush. But anyways, the first title reign, not great. Not great at all. The second one was much stronger. Ended up losing it to Shinsuke Nakamura, who had a long 200-day reign as Intercontinental Champion. I'm going to put him in good. Possibly near the bottom. That first title reign hurts him a little bit. Second title reign was a bit stronger. And Finn, I mean, he's a good wrestler. I think he's a good promo, especially when he's a heel. You know, he showed that in NXT recently. But I was a fan of Finn Balor back when he was part of the Bullet Club, even. You know, he's kind of like the originator of the Bullet Club. And so I'm a big fan of Finn Balor. I wish his title reign would have been a little bit better. I hope his U.S. title reign goes a little bit better, although it doesn't look like it's going to. And he's obviously a former Universal Champion. He won that. He's the first ever Universal Champion, actually. He won that in, 2016? So this is a step down from that. Unfortunately, he kind of went backwards in his career. That injury that he suffered in the match that he won the Universal title hurt him a lot. Not just physically, but it hurt his career, right? Unfortunately. Next, we have Wade Barrett. And I'm a big fan of Wade Barrett, and he should have been a world champion. He's held the title 5 times, by the way. That's crazy. So his first title reign came in 2011 after beating Kofi Kingston. He held the title for 90 days or 89 days after that, which is pretty solid. Won it on a SmackDown. Lost it against Ezekiel Jackson. Man, remember Ezekiel Jackson? We'll talk about him in a little bit. Wade Barrett then held the title by beating Kofi again in 2012 and held the title for 99 days. Again on Monday Night Raw. Not winning the title on a pay-per-view. But still, that's not a big deal. I mean, you kind of have to do title changes on Raw and SmackDown every now and then to kind of spice things up. He then lost the title against The Miz, who had a day-long title reign. He lost it to him at a WrestleMania pre-show. That's unfortunate. And then he won it back immediately. That's so strange. That's such a strange, passing the Intercontinental title. I don't know why they did that. But then Wade Barrett won his third title again by beating The Miz after The Miz had a one-day title reign. Held it for 69 days. Then he lost against Curtis Axel, we just talked about not too long ago. So that was... I thought he said he had 5 titles. He only had... Yeah, it says he had 5... because Bad News Barrett. I have Wade Barrett on the search bar. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. Am I crazy? Alright, we'll type in Barrett. Because he obviously had a gimmick changed after a while. He became Bad News Barrett. So he lost it to Curtis Axel. He won it again later on against Big E Langston, back when Big E Langston was Big E Langston and not just Big E. Back in 2014, had a title reign for about 60 days. Then the title got vacated because he had a shoulder injury, and this is kind of the downfall of Barrett at this point, unfortunately, as a wrestler. But The Miz won the title after that in a battle royal, and then he kind of played hot potato for a little bit with the title. And then Bad News Barrett beat Dolph Ziggler for the title, had another 83-day title reign, and then lost the title against Daniel Bryan in a massive 7-way ladder match at WrestleMania. So he won. Okay, so one of the title reigns he won was at a pay-per-view, Extreme Rules. That was the first Bad News Barrett reign, 2014, his 4th title reign overall. Okay. Honestly, he's had a pretty good run with the Intercontinental title. I was thinking when I saw him, he's had it quite a few times. All of them were pretty sizable reigns for the most part. And he's had some big matches with the title. Do I put him in amazing? I don't know. Now he's borderline for me. I think he deserves to be an amazing as because I mean 5 title reigns is pretty good, all of which have been pretty good reigns, like sizable reigns. You don't see too many people with that, so we're gonna put him in amazing. He'd probably be near the bottom, but we'll see how things go. Next we have Shelton Benjamin, who still is kicking ass today. He's still in great shape, still putting on good matches. Even I think he's in his 40s. Excuse me. I can actually check real quick. He is 46, and he's still in phenomenal shape. Putting on great matches. Give him another title reign. Let him be Intercontinental Champion again. Why not? So he's had 3 title reigns with a combined days of 354. So almost a full year as Intercontinental Champion. So that's cool. And he won all 3 reigns pretty much one after another, it looks like. So 2004, he won his first title reign. He beat Chris Jericho for the title. Had a 244-day reign. He lost it against Carlito, who would have a 90-day reign. Won it from Ric Flair, who had a title reign for 155 days. Held it for 69 days. In the second title reign, lost against Rob Van Dam, who had a 15-day reign because then he lost it back to Shelton Benjamin, who then would go on having a 41-day reign afterwards. I think Shelton Benjamin is tremendous, and I'm going to put him up here. And amazing. I remember having some great matches throughout his WWE career. I don't remember exactly for the Intercontinental title or not. That's always kind of murky for me. But going back and reading through his title reign here, yeah, phenomenal reign. Three different reigns, all of which were for the most part a sizable reign. A 244-day reign, 155-day reign. Or sorry, that's Ric Flair's. 244-day reign, which alone is really good, right? 69 days, nice, and then 41 days. So almost a year's worth as champion. I think he deserves to be up in amazing, because he is amazing. This guy, we don't talk about him. He's going down there. Big E Langston. Big E Langston, or just Big E, however you want to call him. He's had the title a couple different times. So he won the title first as Big E Langston. He beat Curtis Axel for it. Held it for 167 days. Pretty good reign. Maybe a little forgettable. I never forgot it personally, because I always thought Big E would be a breakout star at some point. And he was. He won the WWE title pretty recently. Was it last year? Or was it this year? Gosh, I don't remember. The last couple of years have just kind of blended in with me. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. And maybe the WWE title reign wasn't as exciting as maybe it should have been, but I was still glad he at least won the title, especially after he just broke his neck just a couple weeks ago. And we'll see what happens. I'm hoping him obviously a speedy recovery. Hopefully he gets well soon, and hopefully he can come back and wrestle. There's rumors that maybe he may not be able to wrestle ever again. That'd be a damn shame if that's the case, because Big E, very very good wrestler, very great physique, great promo, entertaining guy, and I would hate to see him not be able to wrestle again. But his second title reign, back on topic here, he won from Sami Zayn in a lumberjack match. We talked about that a little bit earlier, and he held it for 110 days. There had a pretty good reign with the Intercontinental title the second time around as well. I think he belongs in great. I'm gonna put him below Dean Ambrose here, but he did use it as a stepping stone to win the WWE title eventually, right? I mean, that is true. They kind of built him up off that. I'm gonna put him in amazing. Near the bottom of amazing, but I'm gonna put him amazing because you know what? Now that I think about it, that last Intercontinental title reign he did have, I mean, it was a foregone conclusion that everyone's like, okay, they're building him up to win this title. Like they're treating him like a big deal as the Intercontinental champion. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna put him in amazing, and hopefully we can see more from Big E soon. Next we have Booker T. Only one title reign of 34 days. He beat Christian for the title back in 2003. Of course, he also won the U.S. title as well around that time period. When did he win the world title, the big gold? I want to say it was like 2005? 2006, okay. I think it's, 2006 or 2007. I'm gonna quickly look up the World Heavyweight title and look at its title history. Give me 1 second so I can get an actual year. Not that it matters because it kind of supports my point I was gonna make here. Let's see, Booker T. Wait, what am I doing here? What am I doing? You know what? Let's do this. WWE World Heavyweight Championship title. Let's put champions. It's easier just to Google it. Trying to get through just through Wikipedia is always a pain in the ass. All right. So Booker T, as King Booker, won it in 2006 at the Great American Bash. So this title is kind of a stepping stone. It took a few years to win the title after this, obviously, but they were building him up. I mean, everyone already knew Booker T was a star, right? The guy, great wrestler, great physique, cuts a hell of a promo. Booker T is one of my favorites of all time. But as Intercontinental Champion, only holding the title for 30 days. Won it against Christian, lost it against Christian at a house show in Des Moines, Iowa. Interesting. Not a strong title reign. Not a strong title reign. I don't have the heart to put him in not so good. I just can't do it. But I'll put him in good at the near the bottom for now. Next, we have Bret the Hitman Hart, a man who's certainly synonymous with the Intercontinental title. Held it for had 2 reigns, combined days of 290. And they're pretty close to each other. So he won the title from Mr. Perfect in 1991 at SummerSlam. That's a big deal, right? Won it at SummerSlam after ending a 280-day reign of Mr. Perfect. Then lost it against the Mountie, which is a bit of a step down for sure, at a house show. He only held it for 2 days, and we'll talk about the Mountie soon enough. And then the Mountie lost it to Roddy Piper, who then lost it to Bret Hart at WrestleMania in 1992. And that second title reign, he held it for 146 days. So both really solid runs. Won them at big shows, lost them at big shows, and, well, he lost against the Mountie in the first one. That does hurt him a little bit. But it's Bret the Hitman Hart. Like I said, a guy that's synonymous with the IC title. And, of course, he would go on and win the WWE title down the line. I have to put him in God tier as Intercontinental Champion. I mean, come on. When you think of the Intercontinental Championship, he's definitely one of the people you think of. Phenomenal matches. Obviously Bret Hart, also a good promo. Sometimes maybe a weak promo at times, but ultimately when he really turns on, boom, he's kind of hell of a promo. Great wrestler. And as Intercontinental Champion, put on some great matches over the years. And, winning the title at SummerSlam, winning at WrestleMania, pretty big deal. Both, like I said, both really sizable reigns as well. So you got to put them up there. Next, we have my boy Daniel Bryan. Also one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. However, his Intercontinental title reign, did he only have one? Yeah, he did. It was very unfortunate because he won this at WrestleMania. And that 7-way ladder match, we talked about that earlier. But he had to vacate it due to injury, and he pretty much retired after that, right? Then he came back many years later and, got to wrestle in WWE for a bit, and now he's in AEW. So that title reign is tarnished a bit. Won it at WrestleMania, and I know that he really wanted to build his title back up. Like, that was his plan. Put me on, didn't he want to go on SmackDown? He wanted to just, build this title up or something. He was, at the time, the title was on Raw. I don't know, but I remember hearing, he wanted to build this title up and be prestigious again, right? He would have been the perfect guy for that, too. So it's a shame how the title ended. The win was great. The idea was great. I'm going to put him in good, though. And I'm going to put him a step above Stone Cold, but below Kurt Angle, for me personally. Next, we have Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. Oh my goodness. There we go. Alright, so the British Bulldog. Let's see. He held the title for 60 days. Won it at SummerSlam in London, so that's a big deal. Held it for 2 months, which isn't bad. Beat Bret Hart for it, which is a big person to beat for, but then lost it to Shawn Michaels, another big name to lose it to. So, I mean, was fairly protected as the Intercontinental Champion. Never went on to be much more than that in WWE as a single star, unfortunately. Should have been. British Bulldog was awesome. But he may have left for WCW. No, not 92. When did he go to WCW? Let me take a look. He went to WCW in 93. No, I guess he did go to WCW shortly after that. Okay. And then he came back in 94 to 97. Okay. And then back to WCW. He bounced around a little bit, didn't he? British Bulldog Intercontinental. I mean, again, he's another guy you think of as Intercontinental Champion because he never went on to do anything bigger than that. That was kind of his peak in WWE. I think he went on to win the European title at one point. Maybe even the Hardcore title. Let me look. Yeah, both of those things. He's won 2 European titles. He was the first ever European champion. Won the Hardcore title twice. Of course, won the tag titles. I already knew that, though. I was kind of skipping over that. Okay. And, of course, he's in the Hall of Fame now. Was supposed to go in 2020, but then the pandemic happened. They delayed it. So he went in last year. Anyways, I want to put him as Intercontinental Champion. I mean, that big win at London is a big deal. But I have to put him in good, I think. No, because he's kind of synonymous with the IC title. Even though he's only held it once, only held it for a little over a month, I think he deserves to be in great. Next, we have Carlito. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, a man I find cool because if I didn't, well, he would spit in my face because he spits in the face of those who don't want to be cool. So Carlito has held the title once, and he won it from Shelton Benjamin after Shelton Benjamin's long 244-day reign, and then lost it against Ric Flair at Unforgiven, who then would go on to have a 155-day reign, which is pretty good, all things considered. I mean, 3 months is a pretty solid run, right? And I like Carlito a lot. He, decent promo. I would say good promo. Good wrestler. Had a great look. It never went on beyond that, unfortunately. I thought he would have at some point win like the big gold belt or something, world champion, but it never really panned out. He didn't stay in WWE for too long either. Maybe that's part of the reason. I don't know, but I want to put him in good, but I don't think I can go much further beyond that. Since he had a decent run, I think it might be a step above Stone Cold's if I'm being subjective. Even probably better than Daniel Bryan's, to be honest, just because Daniel Bryan had a vacated, so did Steve Austin. I think that's fine. Next is Christian, who held the title. I want to say he held it a couple times. 4 times. Okay, I thought so. And he held it for a combined days of 192 out of 4 reigns. It's not a lot of days for 4 reigns, but let's see what they look like here. So he won the first title from Edge. This is obviously a big deal because when Edge won the Intercontinental title for the first time, there was a bit of jealousy there. And that actually may have been when Christian turned on Edge. It may have been. But he won the title at Unforgiven only held it for 28 days, and then lost it back to Edge, who then lost the title after 15 days to Test, who lost the title in 13 days. A lot of hot potato. A lot of hot potato at this time period, as I mentioned earlier in the video. 30-day reign in the first one, not great, but it served its purpose for the story with Edge. Probably could have been a little bit more fleshed out, though. Then Christian won the title back. They reactivated the title. Christian won the revived title in a battle royal because they had unified the title with the world title and the Intercontinental title. Triple H unified them. So then Christian won it in a battle royal, and then lost it against Booker T after having a 50-day reign, which is solid. Then Christian won it back from Booker T for his 3rd reign for another 50 days. He won in a house show in Des Moines, Iowa. Mentioned that earlier. And then he had another reign. So this was in 2003, right? So then he didn't have the Intercontinental title after that. He had left for TNA at some point, maybe around this time. And then back in 2012, he won the title from Cody Rhodes and had a 64-day reign. I believe that's when Cody brought out the big, or maybe that was during his run before the big show at WrestleMania. When did he bring the white strap Intercontinental title, the old school looking Intercontinental title back? Was that before WrestleMania? I think it may have been. But anyways, Christian won the Intercontinental title, held it for 64 days, and then ultimately lost it against The Miz at Raw 1000, and never became Intercontinental Champion again. Now, during this time period, of course, as I mentioned, Christian had bounced out of. He went to TNA for a while, came back, and then had a little run, and then kind of retired, kind of disappeared after a while. And he would go on to win the world title at some point too, the big gold world title. Would that have been after this Intercontinental title run? Let's see, I have the world title up still. I might just, when I do these videos, have a bunch of these different things open. So let's see. Christian won the world title in 2011. So it was actually before he won the Intercontinental title in 2012. So a bit of a step down with the Intercontinental title. But he was getting later on in his career. He was getting a little bit older. And he was getting close to pseudo-retiring, and now he's back in AEW. I would say ultimately Christian, when you look at the amount of reigns, solid reigns, big time gap between a couple of them just because he was gone in TNA for a while. But they didn't really help get him to the next level. But I would say Christian overall was a great Intercontinental Champion. I'd probably put him above British Bulldog. And I'd put him over Dean probably as well. Honestly, was Christian amazing as Intercontinental Champion? there's some pretty good reigns. I mean, one of them, his first one wasn't strong. I'm gonna put him in great. I don't think he's quite amazing with his title reign. Next is Chyna, the only woman to win the Intercontinental title. She held it twice, a total of 64 days. She won the first one in I think it was a triple threat match, or was that when she won it the second time? Let me look real quick. Let me kind of look in here. She won in a house good keeping match against Jeff Jarrett. Oh boy. Oh no. Okay, this is what it was. She won the title against Jeff Jarrett, and then lost the title against Chris Jericho. And then on December 28th, a title match between Chyna and Jericho ended in a double pinfall, and as a result, they were recognized as co-champions. They don't. WWE doesn't recognize this as an official title reign, but as a vacancy. It was an official reign in my eyes. But Jericho and Chyna had won the title together, and then they would have I think they would have triple threat matches if I'm not mistaken. And then Jericho ultimately defeated Chyna and Hardcore Holly in a triple threat match to become the Intercontinental Champion again. And then Kurt Angle ended up beating Jericho, combining the European Intercontinental title to the Eurocontinental title. And then, of course, that led to that triple threat match I mentioned earlier between Benoit, Jericho, and Angle, where Angle put both belts on the line. So Chyna's reign. Oh, then she won the title again. Let's go back to Chyna here. She beat Val Venus in year 2000, but only held the title for 8 days. It was a mixed tag match. It was Chyna and Eddie Guerrero versus Val Venus and Trish Stratus. Chyna pinned Trish to win the title, and then Eddie ended up beating Chyna for the title in a triple threat match involving Kurt Angle. And then, of course, that was, I guess, during the period with Eddie and Chyna when Eddie was Latino Heat, and that stuff was good. I like Chyna as Intercontinental Champion. I mean, obviously, her being the only woman stands out big time. But I thought her reign was ultimately really good in the storyline between her and Jericho. Being co-champions was very memorable. Even I guess WWE doesn't recognize it as an official reign. But anyways, I thought it was really good. Overall, I have high impressions of her as Intercontinental Champion. I'm going to put her in great. I'm going to put her above British Bulldog. With her being the first woman, I'm going to put her above Dean as well. Below Christian, though, in my opinion. Next, we have Cody Rhodes, who might be coming back to WWE at WrestleMania. We'll see. A lot of people believe he's coming. A lot of people don't think he's coming. So I mean, it's still mixed. And I'm the kind of guy with wrestling. I take rumors and stuff with a grain of salt. I'm the kind of guy who's I'm aware of this happening, but I'll believe it when I see it, especially in a situation like this. But that's neither here nor there because Cody Rhodes won his first IC title against Ezekiel Jackson at SmackDown, and he had a 236-day reign, which was really strong. And I remember being a really good Intercontinental Champion as well. Ended up losing against the Big Show at WrestleMania 28. WrestleMania 28. It was in Roman numerals, and I think about it for a minute. WrestleMania 28, and then won the title back at Extreme Rules in a tables match. I believe that was when Big Show's foot went through the table on the outside. It was kind of goofy, to be honest. And then that title reign was only for 21 days, where then he lost it against Christian. So, strong first title reign. Brought back that white strap classic-looking Intercontinental title belt, which was an awesome look. I kind of miss it. The new title belt doesn't look terrible, but it's kind of generic looking, right? It looks very generic. I really like the old Intercontinental title a little bit more. But that's okay. The first reign was strong. Second reign, not so strong. So I think I have to put him... Man, I really want to say he's great, but... For that first title reign, I'm going to put him in great. That second title reign was kind of weak, so we're going to put him a little bit lower on the end of great. But I think he is deserving of that. Next is Diesel, or Kevin Nash. Diesel held the title once for 138 days. Let's take a closer look at that. I believe he won it from... Maybe he didn't win it from Shawn. No, he won it from Razor Ramon, who had a 198-day title reign. And then Diesel went on to have a 138-day reign where he lost it back to Razor Ramon in 94. And, of course, this was hugely a stepping stone to get him to the next level because he would shortly become WWF Champion. Did he become WWF Champion before that, though? Let me look at Diesel, because I remember him beating... Was it Bob Backlund? And, like 2 seconds. Or was he champion in 96? I'm gonna look here. 94. So yeah, he won the title by beating Bob Backlund. So I was right there. It was at a house show in New York, and then he went on to hold the title for 350, almost a full. Well, actually, yeah, almost a full year. Okay. April of 94, November. So yeah, it was a stepping stone to get him to that world title. And of course, he left shortly after that to go to WCW. And then obviously formed the NWO. And then never really had a run after that in WWE. I mean, they came back after WCW got bought out, and they had like that short NWO run after WCW got bought out. But he didn't really have like a big run after that. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say it was a good Intercontinental title run for sure. I mean, strong run, led to a world title reign, which lasted quite a while. I know that notoriously he's had one of the like least money-making years as champion. Do you blame it just on the champion? I don't know. There's a lot of factors that play into it. But ultimately, as Intercontinental champion, I would say that he goes up there. I'm gonna put him in great, good. Because I would say it was better than British Bulldog's reign, so I'm going to put him in great. Better than Cody's? I'm going to keep Cody above Kevin, personally. Next, you're messing with the real deal now. D'Lo Brown. My best Ted Bob I can do there. D'Lo Brown. There we go. They didn't use a dash, they used an apostrophe. That threw me off. Alright, so D'Lo Brown, he only held the title once. Twice, maybe? We'll see. Let me look here. He held the title once for 26 days. I believe he had the European and Intercontinental at the same time. Yeah. This is a winner-takes-all where Brown was defending the European Championship. He became the first ever Eurocontinental champion. He would then lose the title to Jeff Jarrett. He won the title from Jeff Jarrett, who held the title for 2 days, by the way. Who beat Edge, who held the title for 1 day. Again, hot potato, which definitely devalues the title a bit. D'Lo won against Jeff Jarrett, and then lost against Jeff Jarrett again after that. But he was the Eurocontinental, so that definitely means something. Much like Angle was, although he didn't have a good triple threat match like Angle did. I don't think when he lost the title. Jeff Jarrett won the European Championship match, became the second Eurocontinental champion. So I'm guessing he won both, or he won the Intercontinental title first. I don't know how that worked out, but that was at SummerSlam. Or he won the European title first. I don't know how that exactly that went down. I like D'Lo a lot. I don't think his title reign was that memorable, though, unfortunately. But being Eurocontinental champion puts a little extra on it, so I'm going to put him near the bottom of good. I think that's fair. Next, we have Dean Douglas. If I remember right, he only held the title for like a day. Yeah, less than a day, actually. Let's take a look at Dean Douglas here. So Dean Douglas won the title in your house for the Great White North. Won the title by forfeit due to Shawn Michaels being attacked outside a nightclub in Syracuse. Then defended the title against Razor Ramon, who then beat him. So he won the title, then lost the title pretty much immediately. Didn't lead to anything for Dean Douglas. You know, obviously he's known as Shane Douglas in ECW. I don't know if this was before or after he had won the ECW title. But anyways, Dean Douglas, obviously not a very strong title reign. Probably spent more time talking about his title reign than he actually had one. So, it's pretty apparent he goes into the jobber tier here. Unfortunate because, you know, Dean Douglas was, or Shane Douglas was pretty good in ECW. Next we have the Rated R Superstar. We have Edge. Take a look at Edge real quick. So, Edge has had 5 title reigns with a total of 171 days. Not very strong when you consider things. You know, 5 reigns, only 171 days. Let's take a look at the whole overall scope of things. So, his first Intercontinental title reign only lasted a day. He won it from Jeff Jarrett at a house show in Canada. Then, of course, Jeff Jarrett won it. Held it for 2 days and then lost it to D'Lo Brown. So, it was one of those massive... Oh, my God. Let's... Hold on a second, guys. Oh, I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay, I was gonna say that's crazy. No. It was right though. Edge won it, had it for a day, lost it to Jeff Jarrett, who had it for 2 days, and then he dropped it to D'Lo Brown. Pretty insane. That was his first title reign, so obviously very weak. beginning for Edge there as far as Intercontinental title gold goes. But his second title win, he beat Lance Storm on SummerSlam, which is a big show. Held the title for 35 days, losing it to Christian, and then winning his third title, holding it for 15 days, winning it in a ladder match against Edge, and then lost against Test. We held it for 13 days, and Edge won it again from Test, holding the title for 63 days. So finally, a strong-ish title reign for Edge. This is a title unification matches when Edge had the WCW US title, and then it was deactivated because it was combined with the IC title. And that wasn't his last IC title reign. He also won it in 2004 against Randy Orton. Randy had a 210-day reign, which was pretty solid. Lost it against Edge, who had a 57-day reign in 2004. When did Edge win his first was a WWE title, world title? He won it against Cena because he cashed in his Money in the Bank on him. Hold on. He won it in 2006, so a couple years after he won his last Intercontinental title. That's good. I mean, it was a good a stepping point for him. And of course that title reign, we'll talk about that another day. So yeah, Edge overall, not very impressive title reigns. One solid title reign overall. I'm going to put him in good just because it's Edge. I mean, Edge is definitely a memorable wrestler. I'm going to put him above Carlito. I'm going to put him above Angle, actually. I mean, 5 title reigns is a lot. But man, a lot of them are weak. Let's put him in great. We'll put them at the bottom of great. Yeah. Next we have Ezekiel Jackson, Big Zeke here, the last ever ECW champion, Ezekiel Jackson. He held the title once, I believe. Yep, for a total of 51 days. He won a capital punishment against Wade Barrett, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and he held the title for 51 days, losing it against Cody Rhodes before Cody had that massive 236-day reign. Ezekiel Jackson, another guy, great physique. Promo-wise, wasn't bad. In fact, I liked his work in Lucha Underground. I thought he was really good in Lucha Underground. Wrestling-wise, though, he's a little, a little below average as far as ring work goes, but he's not bad. He's not bad at all. His reign being 51 days, I'm not gonna say it's not so good. Well, it's only one reign. That's his only besides the ECW title, it's his only accomplishment. He wasn't there much longer after that, I don't think. I think he left. Yeah, I think I have to put it in the top of not so good. I was thinking about the bottom of good. He's kind of borderline because 51 days isn't a terrible reign, but it's not very memorable. A lot of people probably forgot he was even Intercontinental champion. So yeah, I'll just put him at the top of not so good for now. Next we have Ric Flair, a guy who won the Intercontinental title way after his prime, but it worked very well in his story because he did a storyline where if he lost his next match, was that during the Intercontinental title? If he lost his next match, he was going to retire. I think so, because he ended up wrestling Shawn Michaels at Wrestlemania, right? In a non-title match where Shawn Michaels retired Ric Flair. WWE incorrectly lists Ric Flair's reign as beginning on September 19th, lasting 154 days. Oh, silly WWE. Let me see here real quick. Retirement match. When was his retirement match? It was WrestleMania 24 in 2008. Oh, I'm way off. No, it wasn't his retirement match time. It was when he was in, was it after Evolution? Because in Evolution, he was tag team champions with Batista, Randy Orton was Intercontinental champion, and Triple H was world champion. I remember his title run being pretty decent, even though he was way past his prime at that point. So again, as I mentioned before, sometimes with title belts and matches and stuff, I can remember certain matches, but I can't remember if their title belts were on the line or who was champion at the time. There's people that do have that memory, oh man, back in 1967, this guy was champion defending against this guy and with 15 minutes. I can't remember that shit, but I remember his title run being pretty decent when I was younger. He was champion when I was 15. So this was 16 years ago. I'm going to put him... 151 days is pretty decent. But since he was past his prime, I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to put him above Carlito. I'll put him above Kurt, actually. We'll put him at the top of good. Next, we have the Godfather. Oh, Charles Wright. Had one title reign. Won it in 1999 against Goldust, who held the title for 14 days. He then lost his title to Jeff Jarrett, who had a title reign of 60 days before Jeff did a couple hot potatoes there after that with Edge and D'Lo. The Godfather's gimmick wasn't that of like a good wrestler, but he was very entertaining. I love the Godfather. But his title reign itself wasn't very memorable. But I love the guy. We'll put him at the bottom of good. We'll put him at the bottom of good. Because he was over as hell. Even when he didn't wrestle. Like, he didn't have to wrestle. The guy was over as hell. So we'll put him at the bottom of good. Next we have Goldust, who I definitely rank pretty high here in the IC title reign. But let's take a look and see what we got here. So he's got a few title reigns. Looks like three title reigns here. So he won his first championship in '96 Royal Rumble. Held up when a title defense against Savio Vega ended in a no contest. They had to vacate it. And they ended up winning the title back in a rematch against Savio Vega on April 1st, 1996 on Raw. So his first title reign was 71 days. The second one was 83 days. Both pretty decently sized reigns. Then he lost the title to Ahmed Johnson. Then way down the line, his third and final Intercontinental title reign was against the Road Dogg Jesse James. And Road Dogg held the title for 2 weeks, dropped it, and then Goldust held it for 2 weeks, and then lost to the Godfather. So the first two runs were really good. I should mention he also won the first Intercontinental title against Razor Ramon. And I remember their feud pretty well. I want to say, man, I want to rank him pretty highly. Because when I think of Intercontinental Champion, I do think of Goldust. You know, that was his height in WWE. Probably should have been a world champion at some point, maybe. I mean, that's arguable for sure. Still wrestling as Dustin Rhodes in AEW. I know he has probably more of a backstage role there, but he has the occasional match that still kicks ass. I'm going to put him in great. I don't think I'd quite put him in amazing. Because I wouldn't put him... Would I put him over Christian? Probably not. I'll put him above Chyna, though. I'll put him above Chyna because his first two runs were really good. That third run kind of holds him back from being amazing, unfortunately. Next, we have Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. We talked a little bit about him earlier. He's had 2 title reigns as Intercontinental Champion. So his first one, he won from Chyna in the year 2000. He had a 78 title reign, which is pretty good. Lost it against Billy Gunn, my boy, Billy Gunn. Which only had a 19-day reign, which is unfortunate. He then won the title again from Rob Van Dam in 2002, in Kansas City, actually, with only a 36-day title reign. He ended up winning the U.S. Title. Obviously, we mentioned on the U.S. title video that we did recently, yesterday. And then when he won the WWE title, what year was that? I want to say 2004. 2004. He held it for under 3, so 2004 of February. So yeah, this was kind of like a stepping point to get there. Definitely, obviously, tragedy happened, and he obviously wasn't wrestling. If he would have wrestled longer, obviously he would have a much bigger career. I think everyone can kind of agree on that. Who knows how many title belts he would have won? I think as far as Eddie Guerrero goes, I mean, it's hard to put him in a low tier at all. His first run was really solid. His second run was less stellar. So I'm going to have to put him in great. I was really thinking about putting him in amazing. But I think I'm going to put him in great. I want to put him... Oh, how appropriate. I want to put him right above Chyna, below Goldust. Next, speaking of Billy Gunn, my boy. My first ever favorite wrestler. Let's go and chuck him in right there. Okay, so next is Jeff Hardy. I'm kidding. He's not staying there, but let's take a look at his Intercontinental title reign. I think he only had one. Yeah, he had one title reign. He is the 82nd least amount of days held as Intercontinental Champion. The first one, of course, is Dean Douglas, then Zack Ryder, Mountie, Test, Road Dogg, Rikishi, then Billy Gunn. Only held it for 19 days. I remember him winning the Intercontinental title. I was very excited for it, obviously. Didn't last very long. Lost it against He Who Shall Not Be Named in Birmingham, Alabama. At least he lost it at a pay-per-view at Armageddon. It pains me, but I have to put him there. Maybe even put Big Zeke above him and Curtis Axel. Yeah. I'll put him above Ahmed Johnson. I think we have to put him not so good. That's a shame because I love Billy Gunn, but that title reign is pretty rough. Next is the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy. I remember the first time he won it was against Triple H, if I'm not mistaken, but it only lasted for like a week. Yep, here it is right here. So he won it against Triple H in 2001. Held the title for 6 days. Lost it against Triple H again after that. Again, hot potato because Triple H, before losing to Jeff Hardy, only held the title for a week, beating Chris Jericho for it. So Jeff Hardy's first title run, not great at all. It was a shocking moment. It was an exciting moment, but it never really panned out to anything at the time. I know Jeff Hardy was having some issues then at that point in time, but, you know, it is what it is. That title reign's not very good. His second run, he won at Topeka, Kansas on Monday Night Raw 2006, beating Johnny Nitro. Held the title for about a month, 35 days. Lost it against Johnny Nitro, who held it for a week, and then lost it against Jeff Hardy again in England, where he would hold the title for 98 days. So a really good reign there. Then he was at, oh man, him versus Umaga was awesome. So Umaga beat him then later down the line, not the same title reign, but he beat Umaga for the title in 2007 for 191 days as Intercontinental Champion. And then, of course, most recently, he had it in 2020, winning the Intercontinental title from AJ Styles and holding it for 37 days. So while there's a couple short title reigns, especially his first one only being a week long, holding the title though is, you know, this reign in 2006 for 98 days, another one for 191 days. I do consider Jeff Hardy a guy that's kind of affiliated with that Intercontinental title pretty heavily. And I'm looking down here, so he's the 14th longest combined days as Intercontinental Champion, which is pretty high. Number one being Pedro Morales. We'll get to those guys soon, the guys that I don't really know much about. But Jeff Hardy, total of 5 reigns, combined days of 367 days, so over a year's worth of Intercontinental title reign. I think I definitely have to put him up there pretty highly. The question is, does he go God tier or does he go amazing? I'm going to put him above Shelton Benjamin. You know what? I'm going to put him in God tier because, and I'm maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I'm a little biased here, but I love Jeff Hardy. He's my favorite wrestler. I do associate the IC title belt with him, especially during that run. He came back. He was wrestling with Umaga. That was an incredible, time for Jeff Hardy. And of course, later on, he would go on to win the World and WWE title at certain points of his career. So you know what? I'm going to put him in God tier. I'll put him in God tier. Next, we have Luke Harper, also known as Brody Lee, who unfortunately passed away pretty recently. He was wrestling in AEW at the time during the pandemic when he passed away. It's very, very sad. That memorial show though, man. AEW put on a memorial show for him, and it was really well done. It was very sad though. I cried like 3 or 4 times, and I'm not even joking. All right, so Luke Harper is the 76th longest reigning amount of reigns with the IC title, so he's going to be graded pretty lowly here. I have to take the tragedy out of the picture here for this, but he held the title for 27 days. Let me look at his overall reign. He beat Dolph Ziggler for the title, and I remember he had a great ladder match with Ziggler when he defended the title against him. I think he messed up his arm in the match, and it was scary, but I think he was selling because I don't think he had a serious injury after that match. I don't remember, but I do remember that spot where he did a suicide dive onto a ladder onto Dolph Ziggler. It was a good ladder match though. But he only held the title for 27 days, lost it to Ziggler, who held it for 22 days. Again, some hot potato here during this time period, 2014. In fact, I'll tell you this much. So, in 2014, you had The Miz have a 28-day reign. Ziggler had a 35-day reign. Miz had a 1-day reign. Ziggler had a 56-day reign, which is fairly long. Luke Harper had a 27-day. Dolph Ziggler 22-day reign. That was pretty much a big portion of 2014. So not very good, right? big hot potato mess. Luke Harper's an amazing talent. He was a guy I really thought could have won the big one at some point. I remember when Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt were like teaming and kind of feuding, and like there was like dissension amongst the Wyatt family, and Luke Harper was kind of on the outside, and like Randy was trying to push him out of the family while winning favor with Bray. And I was thinking, man, they're really doing something big with Harper here. And I remember, I think it was in the Royal Rumble that year, the year that Randy won. He had put Bray Wyatt and the Sister Abigail, like he was about to hit him with Sister Abigail, and the crowd was, you can just feel it. The crowd was ready to explode, and then it didn't happen. So it's like, oh, maybe that's how he wins the world title, because didn't happen. But as much as I like Luke Harper, I have to put his title reign though near the bottom. It was a good that ladder match with Dolph was really good. Is it enough to put him in good though? I mean, that's a really weak title reign. Yeah, if I did that to Ezekiel Jackson, I have to do it to Harper. Unfortunately, I have to put him in not so good at the very top. And it's none of his fault. It was the booking. If he had a longer title reign, definitely could have seen him going up way higher on this list. But unfortunately, it is what it is. Next, we have Marty Janetti. Who had one title reign for 20 days. I believe he beat Shawn for it. He did. Shawn had a 202-day title reign, of course. I'm assuming this is after he turned on Marty Jannetty, super kicking him and through the barbershop window, and he beat Shawn Michaels and then lost against Shawn Michaels after holding the title for 20 days, never to see the IC title again. Shawn Michaels will then have another 113-day reign. Unfortunately for Marty Jannetty, I think I have to put him. Do I put him in Jobber? Where does he rank on lowest? I mean, is it fair to put Albert ahead of Marty Jannetty? Because I'm sure when he won it, I didn't watch this match live, but if this was after he got kicked, kicked in the head and thrown through the barbershop window or whatever, I'm sure that was a big moment. I'm sure the pop was huge. Yeah, I mean, he's the 81st out of 88 on this list of longest reigns. I did put Billy Gunn up here, and Billy Gunn didn't have much of a had a less amount of days as champion. Huh? I guess it's only fair that I put him in not so good. Probably ahead of Billy. Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, so next we have the Honky Tonk Man. This one's somewhat maybe controversial because a lot of people will say he was like the best Intercontinental Champion of all time. He held the title for 454 days. As far as combined days as champion, he is number 4 behind Don Morocco, The Miz, and Pedro Morales. That's a really good reign. And he's definitely a guy that I would say is synonymous with the title. I know he lost the title against Ultimate Warrior. I think it was a very quick match, unfortunately, for Honky Tonk Man. He has to go in at least amazing, but my debate now is, does he go into God tier or amazing? I don't know. Because me personally, I didn't watch his entire reign. I wasn't watching wrestling yet. I was not even born yet, right? But that's an impressive amount of days that I know people talk about his title reign quite a bit, all the time. He's always up there with top Intercontinental champions. So I have to put him. I'm gonna put him in God tier, man. I mean, maybe deserves to be ahead Brett and Jeff. I'm gonna put him behind Jeff personally, just for my personal preference, because I didn't really watch his title reign. But he definitely deserves to be up the very top, I would think. Alright, next is JEFF, Ain't He Great? Jeff Jarrett, who, let's see here, let me scroll down. He's had a lot of reigns as Jeff Jarrett. He's had 6 title reigns with a combined days of 298. He is the 18th longest amount of days in combined reigns, so he'll definitely be up there pretty high. I always liked Jeff Jarrett. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Jeff Jarrett. I didn't watch any of his stuff in WCW because I never watched WCW. But his stuff in TNA as the top guy in TNA was awesome. I really enjoyed his work there. Enjoyed seeing him in WWE as well, or WWF at the time. Going back and watching some of these matches. So his first title reign, he won it from Razor Ramon at the Royal Rumble. 94 days as champion, pretty solid reign. It got vacated because there was a match between Jeff Jarrett and Bob Holly, or Sparkplug Bob Holly, ended in controversy, and he won the title back defeating Bob Holly in a rematch for the vacant title. Held it for 23 days. Lost it to Razor Ramon, who held it for 2 days in a house show. And then Jeff Jarrett won it back. Held it for 63 days. Then you go all the way back down to 1999. He won the title from the Godfather and held it for 60 days. Edge won it in a house show and held it for a day. I guess it was because they were in Canada. They're in Toronto, Toronto, Canada, so they're trying to pop the crowd, I guess. Then he lost it to Jeff Jarrett, who then held the title for 2 days. We talked about this earlier. Losing against D'Lo Brown, the real deal. You're messing with the real deal now. Who held it for 26 days. Losing it back to Jeff Jarrett, who would then hold it for 56 days, losing it to Chyna. So 6 total reigns. A lot of high reigns there. 1 very short reign, which might hold him back a little bit. But I honestly, again, another guy you represent, like you think about who represents the Intercontinental title. Jeff is definitely up there. I'm gonna put him at the top of amazing because I think he's definitely on the level with these guys here for sure. Maybe even higher. Maybe he needs to go in God tier. I want to put him in amazing though. We'll see at the end of the list that he might move up. He's borderline right now for me, but Jeff Jarrett certainly should be very high on that list. Pretty solid run as the Intercontinental Champion. Next, I think that's JBL. Some of these pictures it's hard to tell. I'm going to assume that's John Bradshaw Layfield. If we come across another JBL, I'll figure out who the hell this is. But his Intercontinental title reign, I don't think was very good, was it? Yeah, he's the 76th longest reigning when you combine the amount of title reigns. He's only had 1 title reign. I remember he lost against Rey Mysterio at Mania. Bradshaw. Yeah, he lost it against Rey Mysterio. 25 was a very quick match. And I think is that Bradshaw's retirement match against Mysterio? It might be. That was back in 2009, WrestleMania 25. Again, I like JBL. Well, I like Bradshaw. I didn't really care for the JBL character. That's a really small title reign, and losing very quickly at WrestleMania. It felt like it was just like a token title run, really. Like here, you got on your way out. Let's make a WrestleMania moment. I want to put him in jobber. How long was Albert's title reign? Is that fair? They have the same amount of days. You know what? Screw it. I think that's fine. We'll keep Ahmed in not so good. He's held it for like 50 days. So, Chris Jericho. I can tell you right now, Jericho has the longest amount of reigns as Intercontinental Champion at 9. It might even be 10 if you count the one when the co-champions with Chyna, but they don't count that, the WWE that is. But as far as combined days as champion, there's got a lot of names. Just I have to scroll through here very quickly with the search function. Give me a minute. So he's had 9 title reigns stretched across 318 days. Now, that's not a lot of days when you have 9 reigns, but still having the most amount of reigns is definitely very important for the title's legacy. I want to put Jericho at the top, over Bret, over Jeff Hardy. That might be controversial over Bret, but that's just my personal opinion. Having the most title reigns is pretty big. Now let's look at the actual title reigns themselves, right? And maybe we'll move him back down a little bit. So Jericho first won the title from Chyna at Armageddon, holding it for 22 days. Then, of course, they had the combined co-champions thing there for 20 days, where he won the title back from Chyna in a hardcore match with Hardcore Holly. We talked about that earlier. He held the title for 35 days there. Lost the title to Angle, who then lost the title to Benoit, who then lost the title back to Jericho, who held the title for 6 days in this title reign, losing it back to Benoit. Then you scroll all the way back down here in 2001, winning the title from Benoit at the Royal Rumble, holding it for 72 days, which is a pretty solid run there. Losing it against Triple H, who held it for a week. Then you go all the way down to 2002. He held the title, winning it from Rob Van Dam, holding it for 2 weeks, losing it against Kane. Oh, wow. He beat Rob Van Dam again in 2003, but held the title for less than a day, and then ended up giving the title back to Rob Van Dam that same night in a steel cage match. So there must have been some sort of shenanigans going on there. It doesn't specify on the Wikipedia. That's not very good for Jericho there. The title got vacated in 2004 because Edge got injured. So Jericho won, beating Christian in a ladder match for the title. He held it for 37 days before losing to Shelton Benjamin, who would go on to hold it for 244 days. Then all the way down in 2008, so this is way down the line, he beat Jeff Hardy for the title and held it for 111 days. He would then lose the title to Kofi Kingston, who held it for 49 days. Then down in 2009, he won the title back from Rey Mysterio at Extreme Rules, holding it for 21 days, losing it back to Rey Mysterio. And that is it for Chris Jericho and the IC title. The 17th highest amount of reigns, but the highest amount of reigns overall at 9. Yeah, I still think, even though some of those were very weak runs, he's synonymous to that IC title for now because he has the highest amount of reigns. I think eventually The Miz will surpass it. We'll talk about The Miz here in a minute. But for now, Jericho is kind of like the IC champion when you think about it because he's had it the most times, right? That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, some other title reigns were definitely more significant, longer, more impactful. I'm kind of considering putting Shelton and Jarrett back up up in God tier, start moving some stuff around, and we're probably going to do that once we get further into this list. But there's still some other big names here left, so I'll make that decision once we get there. Next is the Big Red Machine, Kane, who's now the mayor of Knox County. Always weird to think about that. So he's held the title twice with a combined days of 57 days. So not terrible, not great though. When you compare him to other people, those are solid runs. He won his first one from Triple H at Judgment Day. It was a chain match. He then lost it to Albert for 27 days. Albert had the title for 27 days after that. Then down all the way in 2002, so a year later, he wins the title back from Jericho at a Monday Night Raw in Houston, Texas. Then he lost it against Triple H, returning the favor, where Triple H unified the World and Intercontinental title. And then, of course, Christian won the vacated title later on. I love Kane. Kane's one of my favorite wrestlers. I'm going to put him in good. I don't think he deserves to be any higher than good, but I can't put him in not so good, right? I want to put him above Carlito. I'll put him above Austin, but below Daniel Bryan. Alright, so next we have Kofi Kingston. Kofi's had his title a couple times. Let's take a look. Whoops. Click the wrong button there. Okay, so Kofi Kingston, let's take a look. God dang, I keep pushing enter too quickly. Alright, Kofi's had 4 title reigns with a combined 266 days, being the 22nd longest amount of combined reign here. That's pretty good, pretty decent. Let's look at the actual individual reigns though. So, Kofi Kingston won his first Intercontinental title from Chris Jericho at Night of Champions, June 29, 2008. Held it for 49 days before losing it to Santino Marella. He then won the title again from Drew McIntyre in 2010 at Over the Limit. He held the title for 66 days, losing it to Dolph Ziggler, who would go on to hold the title for 160 days. And then Kofi won it back from Ziggler in 2011, January 4th, on a random episode of SmackDown, holding it for 77 days. Then he dropped the title for a while, won the title back in October 16, 2012 against The Miz on Main Event. That's pretty wild. Was that the first main event that they did? Maybe. And he held the title for 74 days after that, losing it to Wade Barrett. And that's it. That's him as Intercontinental Champion. It's been a while since he's had the Intercontinental title, huh? Feels like it was just yesterday. It's been 10 years. Since then, of course, he's been WWE Champion, although I don't think the Intercontinental title really got him there. Always thought he was going to be a World Champion one day, and he finally did it. I know he's been U.S. Champion as well. We talked about him during the U.S. title tier list that we did. I like Kofi a lot. I mean, 4 reigns is pretty good. All of them were pretty decently sized as well. With the exception of, well, his first one even was 49 days. Yeah, I mean, solid all the way around. I have to put Kofi, for me, I have to put him in amazing. I'm going to put him above Bear, but below Shelton Benjamin. I think so. Next, we have Kevin Owens, who I'm a big fan of, obviously. Kevin Owens. Let's see, 132 combined days with 2 title reigns. That's pretty decent. Tied with Owen Hart. With the, well, How appropriate, actually, because he named his son after Owen Hart, and his last name in WWE, Owens, is named after his son, who's named after Owen Hart. Never knew that fact. I wonder if they'll ever give him the title again. Or if he's requested, I can never win it again. I'm tied with Owen Hart. I don't know. If that was intentional or not, I don't know, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. Alright, so he won the title first in 2015 against Ryback. Then he had an 84-day title reign, which is pretty good. Lost it against Dean Ambrose, who would go on to have a 64-day title reign. And then win it back from Dean Ambrose in 2016. Having a 48-day title reign before losing it to Zack Ryder. That was that big 7-way ladder match where Zack Ryder won and then lost against The Miz. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Kevin Owens never won the Intercontinental title since then. 2 solid reigns. How long? He was tied with Owen at 42, right? He had some great matches as Intercontinental Champion as well. I'm honestly going to put him in great. And I'm going to put him... I want to put him right above Diesel, below Cody. How's this look, though? I mean, eventually you guys are not going to be able to see all these because there's so many. We still got so many to go through, guys. I just realized, by the way, this entire time, my camera was off. Sorry about that, guys. You guys are probably like, what the hell's going on? For the last, like, 30 minutes. So basically, I had to take a break because I went and ate dinner and then came back. And I, like, unplugged everything. Whoops. Oh, well. It is what it is, right? We're going to continue on, though. So next we have Bobby Lashley, who won the Intercontinental title in 2019 from Dean Ambrose, holding it for a month, losing it against Finn Balor at Elimination Chamber. We talked about this earlier. He lost the 2-on-1 handicap match where Lio Rush took the pin. He then won the title back from Balor at Raw, holding it for 27 days until Mania, where Finn Balor would beat him. I believe he was Demon Finn Balor, kind of protecting Bobby Lashley a little bit there. And then, of course, Lashley would go on to win the WWE title shortly after that. So it kind of meets that criteria for me where it's kind of like a stepping stone for him to get to that next level, which it definitely did. Even though the title reigns were kind of short, to me they're very memorable. Maybe because it's more recently, but only because, like, also too, just the fact that he finally won a championship, and it kind of made the title seem a bit important because he's a big, he's a big heavyweight wrestler holding this title, treating it seriously. They protected him all the way through until he won the WWE title down the line. May have won the U.S. title before the WWE title, after the Intercontinental title reigns. I don't remember the exact order there. But ultimately, I'm going to put him 2 reigns, only like a month each, though, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'm going to put him in great, near the bottom. But I think he deserves that great spot. Because the reign was pretty good, honestly. And I enjoyed his work with Lio Rush as well. So we'll keep him there. Next we have Drew McIntyre. I could hardly recognize him. Let's take a look at Drew McIntyre. This is before he left WWE to go to TNA down the line. This is 2009. He held the title for 161 days after beating John Morrison. And then he dropped the title to Kofi Kingston. He held it for 66 days. This was like his big, win, and they were kind of, he was even called the chosen one, right? Like Vince McMahon on screen was talking about how this is his like handpicked guy. The guy had size, he had the look, but he just wasn't quite ready yet, right? He would then go on to join like 3-man band, and like literally his career would just go downhill from here. But he ended up leaving WWE, working the Indies, working all over the world, going to Impact Wrestling, winning the Impact title, really reinventing himself, getting even like bulkier and stronger, and ended up winning the WWE title when he came back to WWE. So, and the NXT title as well. So this reign itself, though, 161 days, pretty good run, but they didn't follow through and do anything bigger with him. But I'm gonna say that he belongs in the great category. We're gonna put him. I'm gonna put him above British Bulldog, but below Diesel. Next, we have Mark Marrow, who I didn't even know was Intercontinental Champion, to be honest with you. He had the title once, held it for 28 days. He's the 73rd longest reigning IC champion alongside Big Show. So that's interesting. They're tied. He won the title in '96. It was vacated. Ahmed Johnson forfeited the championship after being attacked. We talked about that earlier. Won the title in a tournament by beating Farouk in the finals. Held it for 28 days, so for 1 month. Losing it to Hunter Hearst Helmsley, also known as Triple H. And then Mark Mero was pretty much probably gone by then, right? Because at that point in time, they realized, oh, Sable's the star here. We're going to make Sable the big star. And Mark Mero, unfortunately, wasn't sticking around too much longer beyond that. I think, personally, Mark Mero probably belongs in the jobber category. Above Dean Douglas, but below JBL. Next, we have HBK Shawn Michaels. I mean, come on. Definitely belongs up here as Intercontinental Champion. Shawn or Brett? Shawn or Brett? I like both, but I'm going to put Shawn there. Let's take a look at Shawn, though. Shawn's another guy that's synonymous with that IC title belt. 100%. He's held the title 3 times. He's 9th highest combined reigns, tied with Mr. Perfect at 406 days. Over a year as Intercontinental Champion. Pretty impressive. Let's look at the individual reigns. So he won his first one by beating the British Bulldog at Saturday night's main event. Then he held the title for 202 days. So this is like a big run for Shawn Michaels, right? Lost it to Marty Janetti, which we mentioned earlier, who held it for 20 days. And Shawn won it back at a house show in New York. Then holding the title for another 113 days. He was then stripped of the title for failing to defend it after 30 days. He was suspended. I believe he was suspended for steroids at this point. Yeah, it says right here on the Wikipedia. So he's suspended for steroids at this point. So they had to drop the title. So they gave it to Razor Ramon. And we'll talk about him in a little bit. Shawn will win the title back a couple years later in 1995 from Jeff Jarrett. And then he held the title for 91 days. Losing it to Dean Douglas. Because again, he got attacked outside the nightclub in Syracuse, New York. And so they ended up vacating the title. Dean wins it by default, but then loses against Razor Ramon, who has another big title run. And that is it for the IC title and Shawn Michaels. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? He's one of the greatest of all time, right? And as far as Intercontinental titles go, again, he's synonymous with that title. Had that great ladder match with Razor Ramon with the IC title. Just phenomenal. Definitely belongs up there. Honestly, I'm going to put him above Jericho. Jericho does have the most title reigns. But, I mean, you look at the body of work Shawn had as Intercontinental Champion. It's second to none. I think he belongs at the very top. Next, we have The Miz, who has 8 total title reigns. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to replace Jericho as the one with the most reigns. And when you look at combined reigns, he is number 2, guys. Number 2. At 597 combined days as champion. He's only behind Pedro Morales, who has 619 days. So, honestly, if he gets 1 or 2 more title reigns, he's going to beat Pedro Morales to be the longest combined reign Intercontinental Champion of all time. I think The Miz, honestly, and we'll talk about his individual title reigns here in a minute, definitely belongs to be up here. To me, maybe number 3, at least right now. We'll look at some of these other reigns. Again, about to be the highest long round of reigns in the modern era as well. Is very impressive. But not only that, every time he was Intercontinental Champion, you could tell this guy tried hard to make this title relevant. He was really trying to put eyeballs on this, this Intercontinental title division, and really made it feel like a big deal to him, which was really good. Not many guys do that. So let's go look at the individual reigns, though. The individual reigns. So The Miz won the title from Christian in 2012 at the Raw 1000 show. Held the title for 85 days. Lost against Kofi Kingston, who held it for 74 days. Then a little bit later down the line, he won the title from Wade Barrett, holding it for 1 day, which is kind of rough. Then he loses it back to Wade Barrett, who holds it for 69 days. Then you go all the way down. The title gets vacated on Bad News Barrett because he had a shoulder injury. The Miz wins a 19-man Battle Royale, eliminating Dolph Ziggler to win the title. Held it for a month, lost it to Dolph Ziggler, who held it for 35 days. Lost it to The Miz at Night of Champions, who held it for 1 day because Dolph Ziggler won it back. And then you go all the way to 2016, so 2 years later, he wins it on Raw against Zack Ryder, who just won this big ladder match. We'll talk about that later. Held it for 188 days. So this is a big title run here for The Miz. A lot of these other title reigns were very short, besides like his first one. A lot of one-day title reigns there. But now we're getting to some meaty stuff here. So 188 days as champion. Loses it against Dolph Ziggler. Wins it back against Dolph Ziggler for another 49-day title reign. Loses against Dean Ambrose. Wins it back from Dean Ambrose. having a 169-day reign. Loses against Roman Reigns, who held the title for 63 days. The Miz wins it back from Roman Reigns, holding it for 76 days. And then that is it for his title reigns as Intercontinental Champion. He's, of course, been U.S. Champion, WWE Champion a couple times, etc. Yeah, I mean, what can you say about The Miz? The guy is synonymous with that IC title belt, especially in modern era. Probably the most modern era guy that's synonymous with that title, I would say. I think that's fair. You can say what you want about The Miz, but that's true. Like, there's really... You would have a hard time, like, debating that fact. Like, it's... Having the title for a total of almost 600 days in this modern era. I know he's been around for a while, but still, that's pretty impressive. I have to put him at the top. No question about it. So, next we have Pedro Morales. So, again, I've never seen Pedro wrestle, but he's the longest amount of combined days as Intercontinental Champion. He's had 2 title reigns. So let's take a quick look at Pedro here at his individual reigns before I make my decision on where I'm going to put him. So, if we look up here, he's the 3rd ever Intercontinental Champion. He won it from Ken Patera in 1980, having a 194-day title reign, losing to Don Morocco in 1981. Who held it for 156 days. Then Pedro Morales won it back in 1981, November 23rd, and then holding the title for 425 days before losing it back to Don Morocco. And that was back when WWF was part of the NWA. Pretty lengthy title reigns. Again, 3rd and technically 5th title reign belongs to Pedro Morales. I say that's pretty impressive. Again, never seen him wrestle. I don't know how good he was. Don't know what his promo was like, if he even cut promos. I have no idea. But I think just the fact alone that he has the longest combined reigns as champion has to put him in God tier, right? Has to. Now, where he belongs on this list, I don't know, so I'm just going to put him at the tail end. So if you think he's the greatest of all time, I apologize, but I'm going to have to put him right about here. So it is what it is. Next, we have the Mountie, which I don't think had a very long title reign. No, he had 1 title reign for 2 days. Let's take a look at it, though. He beat Bret the Hitman Hart at a house show. Held the title for 2 days and lost it against Roddy Piper at the Royal Rumble. Obviously, this is where them transitioning the title onto Roddy Piper. I mean, what can you say about the Mountie? He always gets his man. But I think I have to put him in the jobber status, unfortunately. Since he had 1 day longer than Dean Douglas, we'll put him above Dean Douglas. How about that? So next we have Don Morocco. We talked about him just a second ago, a little bit. But let's take a look. So Don Morocco is the 3rd longest combined reigns as Intercontinental Champion. 541 days. He's held the title twice. Won it from Pedro Morales both times. Not once in 1981 for 156 title reign. And then once in January 22nd, 1983. Holding the title for 385 days, over a year, before losing it to Tito Santana. Again, I have to put him up pretty high. I'm not going to put him in God tier because I don't know his work enough. And he's not the longest reigning combined reigns as Intercontinental Champion. But I'll definitely put him in amazing. Right? That's the best I'm willing to do here. And I'll put him at the tail end just because I don't know much about him. Alright, so next we have Rey Mysterio. Booyaka Booyaka. A guy I definitely associate with the IC title. So he won his first Intercontinental title from JBL in 2009. Held it for 63 days before losing it to Jericho. Who had a 21-day reign, winning it from Chris Jericho again. Having a 65-day title reign in June 28, 2009 at the Bash. That was a mask versus title match, which Rey Mysterio won. And then that's it. Really, that's it? Why do I associate the title with Rey Mysterio? So he's had 2 title reigns, 128 days combined. I like Rey Mysterio a lot. He's had some great matches. I remember he had, against Dolph Ziggler specifically, a great Intercontinental title match. Obviously, Jericho and him had some great matches as well as Intercontinental Champion. But with only 2 title reigns, 128 days, I'm going to put him in great. I can't go higher than that. I'm going to put Rey above Kevin Owens, but below Cody Rhodes, because Cody had that really long reign. Next, we have Shinsuke Nakamura, one of my personal favorites. He's had the title for a lot of times, but he hasn't had a lot of matches as Intercontinental Champion. I can tell you that much. So he's the 12th highest combined reigns, combined days as champion. He's had 2 title reigns. Once as Shinsuke Nakamura, the other one is King Nakamura. Let's take a look at the title reigns themselves, though. So he won the title from Finn Balor back in 2019, held the title for 201 days before losing against Braun Strowman. He would then win the title again in 2021, pretty recently, against Apollo Crews, and then held the title for 182 days. The thing is, though, when he was IC champion the second time especially, he was just never, like, he never defended it. He never defended the title. It was very bizarre. He's a great wrestler. I love Nakamura a lot. I love his look. I love his charisma. Combined days, yeah, you would think, oh man, he's got to be a God tier or something, right? I don't know. He's the 12th longest. I have Barrett in Amazing, who's right above him in terms of length of combined days. He's had less reigns though as Nakamura. Man, the only problem with doing these big tier lists like this, constantly getting interrupted by somebody knocking on the door or something, and I've had to cut this video many times, but it is what it is. So Shinsuke Nakamura, very long amount of combined days, short amount of reigns, which is impressive when you consider the amount of days he's had. Not a lot of title defenses, not a lot of memorable title defenses. So I have to put him in great. I'll put him high in great, though. I'll put him above Chyna, below Eddie Guerrero. I'd love to put him in amazing, but I don't think I can quite do it. So, next we have John Morrison, or Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny 5-star, Johnny All Elite if he ever goes to AEW. Who knows what his name is going to be then. But I think he was Johnny Nitro. Oh, so he's had 3 title reigns, 209 combined days. Okay, let's take a look at them individually. So, first is Johnny Nitro. He won his first IC title from Shelton Benjamin, holding the title for 99 days. That's pretty good. Lost it against Jeff Hardy, who held it for a month, and then Nitro won it back, and then held the title for 7 days in his title reign, so not a very long second title reign. And then his third and final reign. Oh, really? Are they all as Johnny Nitro? Son of a biscuit. Let me just scroll down. I'm sure it's not too far after that. Yeah, here it is right here. It's not Johnny Morrison, it's John Morrison. That's why it was beeping at me. I was like, what the hell? So then he won the title again from Rey Mysterio in 2009, holding the title for 103 days. So 2 pretty long title reigns, 1 very short one. I remember him having some great matches this time period. I love John Morrison. People give him slack for his promo ability, but I think his promos are fine. I think he does a decent enough job. Sometimes he does really good. Sometimes maybe misses a little bit, but I find John Morrison to be a very fun wrestler in terms of a promo. As a wrestler, really enjoyed his work in Lucha Underground. His work in Impact was really good. And, of course, his stuff in WWE. Wish he would have won the world title at some point, but unfortunately never quite made it there. I'm going to put him in great. And I'm going to put him right above Chyna, right below Nakamura. How about that? Next, I believe that's a young Randy Orton. A young little Randall. Randy Orton. Okay. So let me scroll down real quick. So Randy Orton has had 1 title reign, but it lasted for 210 days. And obviously this is a massive stepping stone for him to go into that world title picture, which he did pretty quickly. He won the title from Rob Van Dam at Armageddon, then losing the title to Edge in 2004. He would then have a 57-day title reign. I mean, Randy Orton has to go near the top. I wouldn't maybe put him in God tier, but I definitely put him in amazing. Maybe right above Kofi, maybe below Kofi. Man, he had a really good title reign. I want to put him above Kofi. He's not quite God tier, but he's pretty close. He's pretty close. Next, we have Owen Hart. And again, unfortunate tragedy, obviously, happening in my own backyard too, in Kansas City, since I live in Kansas. Although it may have been the Missouri side of Kansas. Always sad to, it's such a sad story for sure. And he could have, who knows how many more times he would have been Intercontinental Champion or World Champion. You never know. It's hard to say. But let's talk about his title reigns that he had here. So he had 2 title reigns. Again, tied with Kevin Owens at the amount of days. Total amount of days reign. I don't know. You guys know what I'm saying. Okay, so he won the title from Rocky Maivia in 1997, and he held the title for 97 days before losing it against Steve Austin. Again, Steve broke his neck in that match, and then Owen Hart would kind of hold the title for 35 days, dropping the title back to Stone Cold, who would then drop it to The Rock. As Intercontinental Champion, I thought he did a great job as Intercontinental Champion. Owen Hart, obviously, very great wrestler, very good promo. I remember some of the matches with the IC title belt that were really good. Overall impression of him as Intercontinental Champion is very high, but I think I have to put him in great, and no fault of his own, because again, who knows if life was different, where he would be on this list, possibly got here. I'm going to put him in great. And I'm going to put him above Nakamura, but below Eddie Guerrero, for me personally. Alright, so next we have Ken Patera, and again, a guy I never seen wrestle. I'm not going to pretend I know anything about this guy, because I don't. He's held the title once, but it was for 231 days. He won it. He's the second ever Intercontinental Champion. Won it against Pat Patterson in 1980, and like I said, held it for 231 days before losing it to Pedro Morales for Pedro's first Intercontinental title run. Obviously, got to rank him up very highly. Don't know enough about the guy or his matches to rank him too highly, so I'm going to put him in great. And I honestly could probably, even just based on the amount of days, put him a little bit higher than some of these guys. I'll put him below Cody Rhodes. Next, speaking of Pat Patterson, we have the first ever Intercontinental Champion, winning the title in 1979, holding the title for 233 days, almost a full year. Obviously, Pat Patterson's a legend. Never seen him wrestle outside of the Attitude Era, where he was Vince's stooges. So I can't say he's had great matches or not. But I've heard a lot of people talk about Pat all the time, talking about him as an agent or a booker, helping Vince during the Attitude Era in that regard. Hear a lot of great stories about Pat. As Intercontinental Champion, you only get one first. Only because he had only one title reign that lasted 233 days, and you have some of these other guys holding it for much longer. I want to put him in amazing. He probably belongs somewhere higher on this list, maybe. I don't know. Don't know really where to put him. But obviously would put him up very high regardless. Next, we have Mr. Perfect. Big fan of Mr. Perfect's work. Didn't grow up watching it, but I went back and watched a lot of his stuff. And him and Macho Man are like my two favorite older 1990 1980 wrestlers. Huge fan of Mr. Perfect. I think he's awesome. So he won the title, I believe, twice. Yes, he won it twice. He's ninth, tied with Shawn Michaels with combined days as champion, which is pretty impressive in its own right. He won the title that was vacated because the Ultimate Warrior relinquished the title after winning the WWF Championship. It was that title versus title at WrestleMania 6 against Hogan. He won the title at Superstars of Wrestling, and like I said, he held it for 126 days. He beat Tito Santana in the finals. And then he lost to the Texas Tornado, who had an 84-day reign, and then winning the title back, holding the title for 280 days before dropping it to Bret Hart. As Intercontinental Champion, I thought Mr. Perfect was awesome. I have seen a lot of his matches as Intercontinental Champion, a lot of his programs back in those days. Always a good wrestler. Promo-wise, I thought he was pretty good. I mean, he wasn't like a poet, but it doesn't have to be. I thought he was awesome. I want to put Mr. Perfect again. Another guy I recognize is synonymous with that IC title belt. Probably because he never won the world title, though he definitely should have. I want to put him in God tier. And for me personally, I want to put him there because I think he's more synonymous with the Intercontinental title for me than the rest of this group here. I would say Miz just because of the amount of reigns. And again, that's probably controversial, putting the Miz over Mr. Perfect. But you have to understand, 8 title reigns, the second most, days combined. Very impressive feat, especially in modern wrestling. So I'm going to put him there. Next, we have Roddy Piper, the Hot Rod. I believe only held the title once. Let me just quickly double check that. Held the title once for 77 days, which is a solid run. Won the title from the Mountie, who held the title for 2 days. Not a big win for him, but before dropping it to Bret Hart. Piper was obviously amazing, great promo, great wrestler. Not much really you can say about that. He would go to WCW after a certain point. He was also doing movies at a certain point as well, doing stuff. He did They Live and whatnot. Again, Roddy Piper, another guy I associate with the title, but since there's only one reign for 77 days, and winning from the Mountie isn't a very big accomplishment. No offense to the Mountie. I'm gonna put him in amazing. I don't think I could put him any higher than that, but I will put him above Kofi, but below Randy. Just personal preference there. Next, we have CM Punk. Now, his title reign might be forgotten in time. People may forget he was Intercontinental Champion. People also probably forgot he was Tag Team Champions with Kofi Kingston at one point. Pretty crazy, right? He has one title reign at a total of 49 days. But obviously, CM Punk's amazing. He won it from William Regal in 2009 before dropping it to JBL, who held it for a month. Again, this is a stepping point for Punk. They're building him up. He was very popular already at this point. He would go win the Money in the Bank twice, win the world title. Then obviously before the pipe bomb, which he set the world on fire with, and then the whole run with the WWE title. It was used as a stepping stone. You can't argue with that, and it was a solid run. Nothing wrong with it. He had some good matches, I'm sure, as the Intercontinental Champion. But was it great? Probably not. I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to put him right... I'm going to put him above Austin. There. Next, we have Razor Ramon, who unfortunately just passed away. Rest in peace to Razor. We're going to put Razor Ramon at the top. Another guy, again, associated with that Intercontinental title belt. Great matches, Intercontinental title. We'll talk about the reigns here in a minute. And I'm going to put him up pretty high. I'm going to put him actually above Mr. Perfect, I think. But still below The Miz. Again, controversial there, but I think The Miz definitely deserves his spot. So Razor Ramon, he held the title a combined 437 days across 4 title reigns. It's pretty impressive. And he won his first one because it was vacated by Shawn Michaels. Again, he tested positive for steroids. So Razor Ramon held the title for 198 days in his first reign before dropping it to Diesel, who held it for 138 days. Then he won it back from Diesel in August 29th, 1994, holding the title for 146 days before dropping it to Jeff Jarrett, and then the title got vacated because of the match between Jeff Jarrett and Bob Holly, which we talked about earlier. Razor would then get the title back from Jeff Jarrett in 1995, though he only held the title for 2 days. It was at a house show. Lost it against Jeff Jarrett after 2 days, and Jeff Jarrett held it for 63 more days. Obviously, the whole house show thing was probably to, either to sell tickets or to make, cause some excitement. Oh, look what can happen at house shows. Anything can happen in the WWF. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna hold that against him because he's had such other really strong reigns. He then would win the title again from Dean Douglas after he held the title for less than, I don't know, a few minutes, whatever it was. But Razor would then hold the title for 91 more days before dropping it to Goldust. And I think about this time he left WWE to go to WCW. So strong run from Razor Ramon. Scott Hall there. Definitely should have been world champion, no question about it. But what a phenomenal talent Razor Ramon is. Huge fan of Razor Ramon. I mentioned Macho Man. Razor's another guy in that bygone era that I just love to watch. Wrestle, cut a promo, he does it all. He's amazing. Next we have William Regal. I'm a huge fan of Regal. Let's see here. He held the title for 2 reigns at a total of 126 days. That's not bad. That's pretty good. He won his first IC title from Edge. Won it at the Royal Rumble in 2002. Held it for 56 days before losing to Rob Van Dam. He would then win the title again in 2008 against Santino Marella. Held it for 70 days before dropping it to CM Punk. So he's kind of part of CM Punk's ascent to the top. Big gap between those title reigns. I know Regal had some issues with personal demons. I want to say, I don't know if it was alcohol or drugs or a mixture of the two, so I don't want to misspeak there. But I know he had some issues like that, which held him back a couple different times in his career. I know at some point he was supposed to win the world title. In fact, one of his action figures actually came with a big gold world title belt. So that was a big rumor that he was going to be the world champion at one point, but it never happened because of some of those demons, unfortunately. But as a wrestler, I mean, he's so good, right? Such a great in-ring wrestler, great promo, great entertainer. His segments were always exciting. As far as IC title, I mean, 2 pretty solid reigns from Regal there. I'm going to put him in great. And I'm going to put him behind Kevin Owens. How's this tier list looking? You can still see everybody. Very surprised. Next, we have the big dog, or the head of the table, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. He has held the title once for a grand total of 63 days, so a 2-month run, which isn't terrible. He beat The Miz for the title, which we talked about earlier, on Monday Night Raw, and then dropped the title back to The Miz at Raw 25-year anniversary, and he would go on to have a 76-day reign out of that. I mean, really nothing to really say about that. And the fact is, it's kind of like a step backwards. I think they were trying to push him down the card a little bit because the fans kind of turned on Roman Reigns at this point. So they were trying to get him. Same with the U.S. title when he won the U.S. title. When did he win his first WWE title? He won the title in 2015. Yeah, this is after that. So yeah, I think they were just trying to pull him back a little bit so that they can re-push him. And it just didn't really work out. But as far as his title reign goes, it was fine. I mean, nothing really to write home about. I'm going to put him in good. I'm going to put him above Daniel Bryan just because he had a longer reign. Because unfortunately Daniel Bryan had to surrender the title. But I'm going to put him behind Carlito. Next we have Rikishi, who's a bad man. See, Rikishi is one of the how do I say this? Has one of the weakest overall combined days as champion and weakest reigns. He's 83rd, tied with Road Dogg at 14 days. Where did I put Road Dogg? Did I put him in Not So Good? I don't know where I haven't done the Road Dogg yet. Okay, well, perfect. We're doing both here. One after another. So he won the title from He Who Shall Not Be Named, in 2000 on SmackDown. And then he would lose it against Val Venus, who would hold it for 54 days. So a transitional champion of sorts. Rikishi was a guy they really were going to try to do something big with, it felt like, but they never quite did it. As a wrestler, I always liked Rikishi. I thought he was fine. He wasn't a technical wizard, but he was so unique that it just kind of worked. But he's more of like a pseudo-comedy character, right? Doing the stink face, doing the dancing. 14 days. I mean, if I put Albert and JBL, I have to put Rikishi down there too, right? I'll put him above the Mountie, and unfortunately I have to do the same thing with the Road Dogg. Road Dogg also only hold it for 14 days. He won it from Val Venus. Different title reign from Val than he did from when he won it from Rikishi. But he won it and held it for 14 days and lost against Goldust, who would then hold it for 14 days. Again, that hot potato time period. I have to put him right there next to Rikishi. Although I like Road Dogg a little bit more than Rikishi. Even though Rikishi does follow me on Twitter. You know what? He follows me on Twitter. I have to. Anyways, I'm just gonna put him down there. Unfortunately, I love Rikishi, but his title reign, not none of his fault. It's the booking, right? It happens. Next we have The Rock. Of course, he's got to go pretty high on this list. But let's take a look at The Rock. So he had how many title reigns? 2 title reigns, combined days of 339, which is pretty good. He's the 16th highest amount of days total, right behind Shelton Benjamin. He got his first title reign by beating Stone Cold Steve Austin, then held it for 265 days. He would then lose it to Triple H, and then The Rock. Oh yeah, I guess his first title reign was Rocky Maivia. Never mind, that's his second title reign. Ignore that. He won his first title from Triple H as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. 1997, held it for 74 days, dropped it to Owen Hart. Then he won it back later on against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then he held it for 265 days, right? Really strong reign from The Rock. I'm going to put him in amazing. It's tough. Because I kind of want to put him in Gotcha. Because, I mean, this is like the epitome of this being the stepping stone. Because he would obviously go off and win the WWF title and be a massive star in the company. That 265 title reign was really strong. Let's do that. I have 10 up here. Oh no! I might have to go a little above 10. Do I? Maybe. I do. Oh no. Well, there's like 90 wrestlers here. I don't know. We'll go like 12 or 13. We'll see. Alright. So next we have Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has had 2 title reigns with a combined amount of days of 190. I remember one of his title reigns being really good. Yeah, so here we go. So he won his first one from The Miz at WrestleMania 34, held it for 71 days, lost it against Ziggler, who held it for 62 days, and won it back and held it for 119 more days. He was really putting on some banger matches as Intercontinental Champion. Even though it was a short amount of time, not really that short of an amount of time, but not compared to some of these other guys who had like 400 days as champion. I want to put him in amazing. I don't think he's quite on the God tier, but I think he's definitely in the amazing tier for sure. I'll put him below Shelton. Next, we have the ravishing Rick Rude. Another guy who should have been world champion at some point. He's the 40th longest amount of days as champion at 148. He's only had 1 title reign. He won it from the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 5, who held the Ultimate Warrior held the title for 216 days. And then after he beat Rick Rude again for the title at SummerSlam, he held it for 218 more days. As you can tell, I'm starting to get... I need to slow it down a little bit. Hold on. We're almost done. Alright. Because I've been doing this for like 2 hours, right? I don't know. It's hard to tell because it's split up in like 3 or 4 videos now. So Rick Rude obviously had a pretty good reign. I'm going to put him in great. And I'm going to put him... I'm going to put him above Owen but below Eddie for me. Alright, next we have Rob Van Dam. He held the title a few times. Let's see. Total of 6 times with a combined of 211 days. That's pretty good. Let's see. Let's look at him though. So he wins this first one from William Regal at WrestleMania 18. What a great pay-per-view. Then held it for 35 days. Not a long reign. Lost it against Eddie. Eddie held it for 36 days and dropped it back to Van Dam, who held it for 63 days. Who dropped it to He Who Cannot Be Named for 27 days. And then he won it back from him at SummerSlam. Held it for 22 days. And then he doesn't win it back until 2003. He wins it from Christian. Holds it for 28 days. Loses it against Jericho. Held it for less than a day. That was that screwy finish. We don't know the exact story there off the top of my head, but he wins it. Back in a steel cage against Chris Jericho on the same night he lost it. He then loses it to Randy Orton, who holds the title for 210 days. And then wins the title again in 2006, a few years later, against Shelton Benjamin. But he only held it for 15 days that round, and then lost it back to Shelton Benjamin. So he's had some weaker title reigns, some strong title reigns in there. Always loved Rob Van Dam. I do remember him fondly as Intercontinental Champion. I don't think he's quite God tier, but I definitely think he's in the amazing tier. And I'm going to put him... I'm going to put him above Seth Rollins, I think. Alright, next we have Ryback, everybody's favorite wrestler. He's only had 1 title reign for a combined days of 112. He won it in an Elimination Chamber match for the vacant title. Oh, that match was a mess, too. That match was a mess, unfortunately. Things were just going wrong on that match. He then dropped the title to Kevin Owens, who had an 84-day reign. It wasn't bad. I mean, he had a fine reign. I remember him cutting a promo. Was he Intercontinental Champion when he said, when he did like the Elvis impersonation? I think so. I'm gonna put him in good. I don't think it was like anything bad, but it was also nothing special, and he never went on to win like the world title, like he probably should have. The guy was over as hell at one point. I'm gonna put him above Austin's title reign, but below CM Punk's, which is gonna make CM Punk very happy. All right. Next we have Zack Ryder, who I'm a huge fan of, and I love that he won the title. It was very random. I remember, so he's also, by the way, he's the second lowest combined days reigned. He's got one full day under his belt, which is more than Dean Douglas, but less than the Mountie. But let's talk about Zack Ryder for a minute. So at this point in time, I don't think anybody thought he was going to win until like the day or two before. Because I remember people were talking about the odds, and the odds of Zack Ryder winning like dramatically shifted. And it was like, what the hell? Like betting odds, right? And it was like, is Zack Ryder going to win? And then he won. He won the Intercontinental title in a 7-way ladder match, but then he lost it the next night against The Miz. It was obviously a big moment. It's very memorable because of the fact that he lost. It only lasted for one day. It almost works in his favor. But ultimately, it's not much of a title reign, though. I have to put it up here, but I'm going to put it near the top just because it is memorable and because I'm a big fan. Alright, so next we have Tito Santana. So let's take a look here. So Tito Santana's had 2 title reigns. Combined, he's a 443, the 5th longest underneath the Honky Tonk Man there. It's pretty good. Let's look at his title reigns. So he won the title from Don Morocco right after they ended the partnership with the NWA. He then lost it against Greg Valentine in 1984, who had a 285-day reign, and then he won it back from Greg in 1985 at a house show, and then held it for 217 more days. What can you say? He definitely deserves to be up near the top. So I want to put him below Don Morocco in amazing tier, because I can't really appropriate rank him because I didn't really watch him wrestle. But hey, that's pretty impressive title reigns there for Tito Santana. Next we have Santino Marella, who I remember winning his Intercontinental title on his debut against Umaga. He's had 2 title reigns combined of 162 days. So he beat Umaga, like I said, in his debut. He was like in the crowd, and I think Bobby Lashley helped him win. It doesn't say it on the Wikipedia, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. It was in Italy, Milan, Italy. And then he would lose the title against Umaga after holding the title for 77 days. And then later on, he won the title against Kofi Kingston, holding the title for 85 days. This was a winner-takes-all match. It was a mixed tag team match. It was Kofi and Mickie James versus Santino and Beth Phoenix. Okay. So this is when they were doing like the partnership with Santino and Beth. That stuff was fun. That was a lot of fun. I like Santino. He's a great comedy wrestler. He's another guy I definitely do associate the IC title with. The fact that he won it on his debut is pretty cool. Obviously wouldn't do too much more in the WWE in terms of accolades. There'd be times where they would kind of hint at him, the Elimination Chamber, Daniel Bryan, he's going to win the world title, but he doesn't. Great babyface, false finish. Or, he's going to win the Royal Rumble, he's going to eliminate Alberto Del Rio. He didn't eliminate Alberto Del Rio. He was great in that kind of role. Intercontinental Champion-wise, I'm going to put him in great. I'm going to put him... I'm going to put him below Rey Mysterio. Next, we have the Macho Man Randy Savage, a guy that, when you think Intercontinental title, he's right up there. I have to put him in God tier, right? I have to. And I'm going to put Macho Man... Actually, let me not... Okay, this isn't a finalized ranking here. Let me look at his reigns first before I decide where to put him in God tier. Is it just Randy Savage on the Wikipedia? Yeah. Okay, so Randy Savage has only 1 title reign, but it lasted for 414 days. He is the 8th highest combined days as champion, which is pretty impressive. Most reigns, yada yada. Okay. I was wondering if they said like who had the longest, because I don't know who has the longest reign of all time. Could be reign. Well, actually, he was so close to beating Pedro Morales' reign. Maybe Pedro Morales, but it doesn't matter. So he won the title from Tito Santana in 1986, and then held the title, like I said, for 414 days before losing it to Ricky Steamboat in that amazing WrestleMania 3 match, where Ricky Steamboat would hold the title for 65 days. Man, yeah, I'm gonna put him above Mr. Perfect, but below Razor Ramon. But I mean, you could put Macho Man at the top if you wanted to. I mean, this is all preference, right? I think he's awesome. Next, we have Ken Shamrock, a guy you really thought would have done more in WWE than he did. He only held the title once for 125 days. He defeated X-Pac in a tournament to win the vacant title. It's an okay reign. Again, another guy who I kind of associate the title with just because he never won anything more than that, although he definitely should have. I want to put his reign in great because I think it's a step above of like the Ric Flair's run. But I'm going to put him below Kevin Owens for me personally. Next, we have the Big Show, who won the title from Cody, if I'm not mistaken. We talked about that earlier. He is the 73rd lowest, tied with Mark Merrow, lowest amount of days total as champion. And he won the title from Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 28, and then dropped it back to Cody Rhodes in that tables match. And that's his reign. That's it. That's Big Show. Unfortunately, and I like Big Show, I think I have to put him... I have to put him in the jobber. I'll put him at the top, but he's in the jobber, I think, with his title run. Not a very good run. Although he did win it at Mania, and he never held the title before. I'm keeping him there. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. One title reign, but it's very memorable. Again, he beat Macho Man after that long reign Macho Man had, that awesome WrestleMania 3 match. And another guy who never won the world title in WWE, but definitely could have. Just the ultimate baby face, you know what I mean? Just really, really good. I'm going to put him in amazing. I'm going to put him, I don't know if I could put him above these guys just because his title reign length isn't as high, but it's a big title reign. I want to put him at the bottom of amazing, but he definitely deserves to be up there. Alright, next we have Lance Storm, who only has one title reign. He's tied with Albert, JBL, and Luke Harper with the same amount of days held, which is 27. So not very good there. He won the title from Albert, actually, funny enough. Held it for 27 days, then lost it against Edge. Unfortunately, that means I have to put Lance Storm in the not so good. I don't want to put him in jobber. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Man, he's so. I like Lance Storm. You know what? I'm just gonna put him in not so good. I'm gonna put Big Show up there as well. Because I'm looking at Billy Gunn, and I'm a little biased towards Billy Gunn. But he only held the title for 14 days, right? So how can I put him above, like him in here and then in the jobber? We'll put him in not so good. So next we have Test. It looks like Test held the title once for 13 days. Oof. Whoops. I easily minimized my Wikipedia page. All right. So Test won the title in 2001 from Edge, and then lost it against Edge again after 2 weeks. That's it. I'm going to put him in the jobber. I like Test a lot, though, by the way. But I'm going to put him in the jobber. Next, we have Kenny Omega. It looks like Kenny Omega in this picture. But it's not. It's, Texas Tornado. It's Texas Tornado. I think about that one for a minute. Texas Tornado has had one title reign. Grand total of 84 days. It's a solid reign. He beat Mr. Perfect for the title at SummerSlam, so it's a big win for him. Held it for 84 days and lost it back to Mr. Perfect as Superstars of Wrestling. I say that's a pretty solid reign. Again, I don't know much about, I didn't watch a lot of Texas Tornado matches. I don't know if he even lasted in WWE that long. I don't think he did. But just for the significance of the victory alone and the title reign length, I'll put him in good. I'll put him above Austin. That's fine. So next we have Hunter Hearst Helmsley, aka Triple H. Let me see. He's had a lot of IC title reigns, right? He's had 5 with a grand total of 196 days. He won his first title As Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Mark Merrow. Held the title for 115 days. Would then lose it against Rocky Maivia. He would win it back later in 1998 against The Rock, kind of getting the win back. But this was at SummerSlam. Held the title for 40 days and then had to vacate the title. Doesn't necessarily say why. I don't know if it was an injury or he got tested for something. I have no idea. But he vacated the title, won it back in 2001, winning it from Chris Jericho. He would then lose it against Jeff Hardy after holding the title for a week. Jeff Hardy held it for 6 days, lost it back to Triple H, who then would hold it for 34 days. And he would win it again in 2002 at No Mercy, beating Kane, unifying the World and Intercontinental title together. And then obviously they brought the title back in 2003 when Christian won it. Triple H I associate with the IC title because it was kind of like a stepping stone for him, but I wouldn't quite put him in God tier. I want to put him in Amazing. And I'll put him above Roddy Piper, but below... I want to put it below Randy, because he had more title reigns than Randy, but Randy's title run, like his one run, I felt like meant more. I mean, they kind of served the same purpose ultimately, but since he only had one with so many days, it just feels like it meant more. If that makes sense. Next, we have Umaga, who I'm a big fan of. Loved Umaga's work. Loved him as Intercontinental Champion. He had 2 reigns with a total of 117 days. He beat Jeff Hardy for the title on Raw. Then he lost the title against Santino, and then won the title back from Santino when Santino won the title on his debut. Umaga won it back, 61-day reign, and then lost it back to Jeff Hardy. He had some awesome matches. Definitely could have done more in WWE had he stayed alive. Unfortunately, he passed away. I'm going to put his title in... I mean, just the quality of matches he was having were great. I want to put him in great. I'm going to put him below Edge, but above Bobby. Below Bobby. Next, you have Greg the Hammer Valentine, who looks like my grandma these days. And that's a fact, Jack. He had 1 title reign, but it lasted 285 days, which is pretty solid. He's the 8th. He has the 8th title reign in the history of the IC title. He beat Tito Santana at Maple Leaf Wrestling in London, Ontario, Canada. Held the title for 285 days before dropping it back to Tito in 85. Really solid reign. Again, I don't know much about his work. I mean, I've seen a few of his matches over the years. He's fine, but I'm not going to say that he was the best of all time or anything. I will say, though, that 285 is a pretty good reign. So I'm going to put him... I'll put him near the bottom of Amazing. I think that's fair. Next, we have Val Venus. Let's see, he has a couple title reigns, 2 of them with a total of 83 days. He won the title at St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Your House in 1999, beating Ken Shamrock with Billy Gunn as the guest referee. He would then lose the title against the Road Dogg, who would have a 2-week reign. That was when they were playing Hot Potato. Then later on, he would win the title back in 2000 against Rikishi, and then he would drop the title after holding it for 54 days against Chyna. 2 reigns. One of them was pretty lengthy. The other one, not so much. Actually, no, they're both. I mean, the other one was just a month, which is fine. I'll put him in good. I'll put Val in good. I'll put him above Godfather, but below D-Lo. Next, we have the Ultimate Warrior. Now, I'm not like a massive Ultimate Warrior fan, although I like Ultimate Warrior just fine. But I think I have to put him in God tier. We'll talk about his IC title reigns here in a minute, but just for the fact alone that he had a winner-takes-all match with Hogan at WrestleMania 6, I believe it was. And he won, so he was both WWF champion and Intercontinental champion. And then, of course, would then later vacate the Intercontinental title, which is fine. Otherwise, you'd have to have him lose the title, and that would take away from his title reign as WWF champion. But let's talk about his reigns. I know he's had a couple pretty long reigns. So yeah, he has the 7th highest combined reigns as champion. He has 2 reigns, total days of 434. That's pretty good. So he won his first one from Honky Tonk Man, ending that massive 454-day streak. This is like the beginning of really building Ultimate Warrior up. Won the title at SummerSlam, then he lost it against Rick Rude, who would have a 148-day reign, and he would win it back at SummerSlam against Rick Rude before having that champion versus champion match with Hogan, and then vacating the title that later Mr. Perfect would win. So, I'm going to say, as far as Intercontinental being like synonymous with it, I would put it over The Rock. I would put it over Jeff Hardy. Over Jeff Hardy. Behind Bret Hart. And then last but certainly not least, we have the man who's trying to show the world, Dolph Ziggler. Now, I'm a big Ziggler fan, and I'm immediately tempted to put him in that God tier spot. I don't think I can. We'll see. We'll see. Let me look at his overall reigns here. So he's had 6 title reigns, combined 372 days. He's got the 13th highest amount of days as champion, right underneath Shinsuke Nakamura. But he had a lot of great title defenses as champion. Where Shinsuke, as much as I love Shinsuke, and I do, didn't have nearly as many title matches as Ziggler, or title reigns for that matter. So he won his first Intercontinental title from Kofi Kingston in 2010, holding the title for 160 days. He would then drop it back to Kofi. He would later win it against The Miz in 2014 at SummerSlam, holding it for 35 days, losing against The Miz, who would hold the title for a day, before losing the title back to Dolph Ziggler the next night. For 56 more days, he would lose the title against Luke Harper. Then he would win it back after Harper had it for 27 days in that awesome ladder match I talked about earlier. He would then lose the title against Bad News Barrett after 22 more days as champion. Then you go back down, scrolling down. He would win the title back in 2016 by beating The Miz, holding it for 37 days, and losing it back to The Miz, who would hold it for 49 more days. And then he would win the title from Seth Rollins in 2018, holding the title for 62 days. So pretty solid run. I don't think he's quite got tier personally with his title runs, although really good matches. I'm going to put him in amazing, and I'm going to put him... I'm going to put him above Piper, below Triple H, though. And he would eventually win the world title, though they could have done so much more with Ziggler. Don't even get me started on that. And there it is, guys. There's our tier list. It only took, like, forever. You can't see the entire thing because there's so many wrestlers here. But so there's the jobber, and I'll hide my face again, even though I did that for quite a while earlier on accident. Here. There you go. So that way you can see the entire list in its entirety. And of course you have the God tier there. Filled up pretty, I mean, it's probably the most I've put in a God tier in quite a while. But I mean, again, there's like, 86 wrestlers here. I mean, there's a lot of wrestlers here. But I think they all deserve it. Maybe with the exception of Pedro, just because I've never seen him wrestle. But I mean, he's the the longest reigning amount of days as champion. I think I have to put him up here for that fact alone. That's a good crop of wrestlers there. I think people may argue The Miz shouldn't be up here with these guys, but that's fine. I personally think he should, especially as being like the modern era, Intercontinental guy. I think he definitely deserves to be up here. Ahead of Razor's probably controversial, and maybe even my own preference. I'd probably put Razor over The Miz. That's a tough one. It's very close. Like, it's really close with a lot of these guys, right? But yeah, that's my list, guys. Let me know who your favorite Intercontinental Champion of all time was. Put my face back on here real quick. Whew. This video has been a very long one. I don't even know how long it's been because it's chopped up into 3 parts. I want to say it's like 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it if you watched it all the way through. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's the next time I'm the Maverick Daniels. Been here for a peace and one love. Bang!